Hey guys, what's up? Hey Tina, hey Steve, hey Amanda, hey Sayla. What'd you say? Oh wow. I did not know you were covering her. I did a study on her about 4 years. Did you really? She's Beyonce's great grandmother? Sweet. Hey Teresa, my BFF. Well, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna leave that up. Um, I don't know. I've wanted to do this for a while. I'm just interested. Same with Madame Lavaurie, Delphine Lavaurie. Hey, Great Dane Mom. Do you want to come up? Great Dane? Oops. There's the link. I found like something on YouTube that I was gonna watch with you guys, as well as I just Googled her, and there's so many different things that are interesting that I didn't know. I don't know. I think it's really neat. Like when I did that Madame Lalaurie there, that one's pretty cool, except for the fact that it really wasn't because of what she did. So I thought, no, I have to do this one as well. And I just watched American Horror Story, The Coven. So yeah, when I do this. That would have been Madame Lalaurie. Yeah, it would have been if you I don't know if you've seen her or not, Tina, but yeah, it would have been Kathy Bates. That was Lalaurie. I got cotton balls up and down my God. Like I love these pajamas, but I just got them. I bought me and Leland matching ones, but he won't let me take a picture. And there's like freaking little fur balls. This is the second time wearing them. That's who you meant, yeah. But then, well, in the American Horror Story, she started doing it too. But I think it was just part of the show. Try washing it inside out. Well, I have one of those things, that that takes off the fur balls. Um, Hello?
I'm here. Hello.
Hello? There you are.
Hey, my friend. I wonder if
Huh?
we have the same video.
I don't know. Here, mine is just says Marie Laveau, the New Orleans Voodoo Queen, and it's from the History Channel, I think. Nope, the Legends of History.
Oh, mine is a video by a voodoo priest about whether she was a voodoo priestess and some history in the cemetery and everything.
Okay, that would be cool. Hmm. I'm just thinking, just gonna kind of like go through what I found on her, which there's so much stuff. Yeah, it says the voodoo queen of the 19th century, and then it's got a picture of the graveyard where she is apparently. Oh, I gotta share my screen. I wasn't suspecting your name, like that was you, so I was hesitant to say hi. See, like I was hesitant to let you up on panel, but I thought, well, it's got to be you.
I don't know why it's not showing my little photo profile picture. Who knows?
Yeah. Let me see this here.
Yeah, people get confused on Discord because I'm two for Doc over there and I'm Great Dane Mom here.
Yep. I know though. I know who you are in Discord and here, so that's good. And I guess I just read this off. You okay? You can go back to sleep. It's all right. My host, my co-host. You look pissed off.
No, sweet kitty.
Are you upset that I wake you up? I'm so sorry. She looks grumpy. She's not though, and she's just tired. All right, so this apparently is the true story of Marie Laveau, the infamous voodoo priestess of the 1800s in New Orleans. I want to go to New Orleans so bad. Did you do anything for New Orleans? That just happened, right? Like yesterday?
Yeah, Mardi Gras was yesterday. I didn't do anything because I'm 5 hours away in Northeast Louisiana, but I did
Oh,
watch
okay.
a lot of Bourbon Street last night.
Oh, that's awesome. So it says Mary Laveau is famous for being New Orleans voodoo queen, but was she really as evil and, and mystical as she has been portrayed? See that? I don't know. But I guess we'll find out. In the 19th century New Orleans, Mary Laveau proved that voodoo was much more than sticking pins in dolls and raising zombies. I wonder if there's any proof of that, because I find that zombie part. Actually, no, never mind. I don't, because have you ever watched it's by Wes Craven, The Serpent and the Rainbow. Have you ever watched that? That's a true story. And yeah, it's based in New Orleans and it's about these zombies. It's crazy.
Well, there's a certain drug that they can administer
Yeah.
that makes you act like a zombie, but technically you're.
And they control you as well. I think there's blow it in your face type deal. I don't know. I remember watching that movie. I was like, this is based on a true story, really? All
Mm,
right.
I'd have
So while the white world dismissed her as an evil occultist who practiced black magic and held drunken orgies, New Orleans Black community knew her as a healer, a herbalist who preserved African belief systems while meddling them with those of the New World. See, that's what I would like to believe and what I thought, anyways. I didn't know though about the orgy part.
That's the
For
voodoo.
decades, Mary Laveau would hold spiritual ceremonies of healing and faith in New Orleans, Congo Square, every Sunday, a gathering place for the city's oppressed Blacks who weren't allowed to congregate in public or most other days. Congo Square on Sundays provided their one chance for community. And though Marie Laveau's voodoo ceremonies allowed worshippers to practice their faith, the whites, literally spying from the trees nearby, reported sensationalized accounts of cult drunken orgies and dismissed Laveau as an evil witch. But the true story of Mary Laveau is much richer and much nuanced than the inflammatory myths that have persisted for more than a century. So here's her Mary's origins before becoming the storied priestess of New Orleans. There's a commercial. Well, now I'd get a free tarot reading. Yeah, okay. Hmm. Born around 1801, Mary Laveau came from a family who reflected New Orleans' rich, complicated history. Her mother, Marguerite, was a freed slave whose great-grandmother had been born in West Africa. Her father, Charles Laveau, was a multiracial businessman who bought and sold real estate and slaves. Huh?
Well, that's contradictory because one of the
One of the
pieces that I read said that her dad was white and that her mother was
Yeah.
multiracial, was white, black, and Native American, which made her Creole.
Yes. According to Laveau's New York Times obituary, she briefly married Jacques Paris, a carpenter of her own color, but when Paris mysteriously disappeared, she entered a relationship with a white Louisianan who hailed from France, Captain Christophe Dominique Glapion.
Glapion.
Glapion, thank you.
Mhm. That family's
Though
still
Lapion and Glapion lived together for 30 years and had at least 7 children together, they were probably never officially married due to anti-miscegenation. No, misconjugation. And I don't even know how to say that word. Can you? Miscegenation. I don't even know what that means.
well, he was white. He was a French aristocrat. So that's probably why they were not allowed to
It
marry.
says here that he was a carpenter, though, of her own color.
Her first husband was
The
Glapion.
first one.
Yeah, Glapion was the French aristocrat that she spent 30 years with.
Gotcha.
And
Okay. That
that
confused
family's
me.
still prominent in New Orleans.
Thank you. That confused me.
You're welcome.
So they had at least 7 children together. They were probably never officially married due to the anti-laws. In any case, Mary Laveau was known for more in New Orleans than being a wife and mother. She was well loved, well respected in the city, and Laveau habitually hosted New Orleans lawyers, legislators, planters, and merchants at her home between Rampart and Burgundy Streets. She doled out advice, offered her opinion on current events, helped the sick, and hosted anyone visiting town. She doesn't sound bad to me at all,
No,
especially if
no.
lawyers are there and, you know. Her
She did
narrow
a lot.
room heard as pardon?
Oh, I was just going to say she did a lot for a lot of people, especially during the yellow
Yeah.
fever outbreak.
Her narrow room heard as much wit and scandal as any of the historical salons of Paris. The New York Times wrote in her obituary. They were businessmen who would not send a ship to sea before consulting her upon the probabilities of the voyage. Well, there's those X's. How the Voodoo Queen preserved. Oops. But Marie Laveau was more than, as the New York Times called her, one of the most wonderful women who ever lived. She was also a voodoo queen who oversaw ceremonies in New Orleans. Visitors leave offerings on Marie Laveau's grave and hope she will grant them small requests. Look at all the X's. Can you explain what that means again? Please and thank you.
What you do is you go to a grave, you put 3 X's. Some say you circle the tomb 3 times, others say you make 3 turns, make your
Mm,
wish, and knock on the tomb. And then, if your wish comes true, if she grants your wish, you come back, you circle the X's, and leave a gift. Which that's
wow.
new information that I didn't have the last time we discussed it. So if you see any circled X's, that means the wish came true.
Really? That's really cool. Hey, Mason Blue. Yeah, you got me live. Yeah, I heard that as well, that she was a descendant of Tituba. I've heard that as well. Yeah. Didn't some guy eat his girlfriend's face on that herb? I know that I think you might be talking about basalt and flaca. That's like new stuff, I believe. I could be wrong. Probably am. You just know her from an old song? I didn't know there was a song.
I'll look for it.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know there was one.
Excuse me.
No, I like her. I think that she's great, to be honest. Shit. Who the hell just where was I just at? Oh, I'm an asshole. I should have shared this instead. I'm sorry, guys. Wow.
Okay.
All right, can you see this tomb? That's what I was talking about. I thought I had this one shared, not just the first one. Jeez. Sorry. So there you can see all the X's. I don't see any cross though.
No, it's just X's.
Yeah. I'm not there. If I was, I'd be taking pictures. I'd just be like looking for circled crosses. I would never touch it though. I'm too scared.
Okay. I found the song.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. Is it on YouTube?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God. Okay, we'll listen to it after this.
Okay. I've got,
So it says here that visitors leave offerings on Marie Laveau's graves and hope she will grant them small requests. And yeah, I don't see any Texas. Marie Laveau's status as a voodoo queen was no secret in the 19th century New Orleans. Newspapers of her day called her the head of the voodoo women, the queen of the voodoos, and the priestess of the voodoos. But what did the queen of the voodoos actually do? Laveau, who likely learned about voodoo from her family or African neighbors, filled her home with altars, candles, and flowers. She invited people, both black and white, to attend Friday meetings where they prayed, sang, danced, and chanted. As Queen Marie Laveau would have also led more elaborate ceremonies, like on the eve of St. John the Baptist, then along the shores of Lake Pontchartrain. No, oh my God,
it's Lake
Pontchartrain.
Pontchartrain. It's Pontchartrain. It's a Native
Thank you.
American. Yeah.
She and
Olivia.
others would have lit bonfires, danced, and dove into sacred bodies of water. But though people of all races visited Laveau and attended her ceremonies, many white people never accepted voodoo as a legitimate religion. White people who witnessed rituals sometimes sensationalized them, and stories spread outside New Orleans that describe voodoo as a dark art. I always thought it was a dark art. I mean, I think every kid probably growing up always assumed you'd have like the dolls and you stick pins in them and stuff. I don't know. That's what I always thought, but I'm learning. I'm glad you're here with these because some of these things I don't know how to pronounce. So indeed, white Protestants saw it as devil worship and some black clergy saw voodooism as a backward religion that might impede racial progress in the United States after the Civil War. Seriously, they thought that? Craziness. Even the New York Times, which wrote a fairly glowing obituary of Laveau, wrote, "To the superstitious Creoles, Mary appeared as a dealer in the black arts and a person to be dreaded and avoided." Well, why would they do that? Just to sensationalize it more?
Yes, a lot of white people back then would go see her and just go in through the back door so people wouldn't know that they were actually going to see her. I kind of missed part of what you said. My mind just zoned out.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know why. Um, no, Bayou St. John, my
Apparently,
high
apparently
school.
Beyonce is a descendant of Marie Laveau.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. That would be interesting
I
if
don't
it's
know.
true.
That would be. I do believe the Tituba part, though. I do believe that they would be descendants. I mean, maybe. You never know. The historic legacy of Mary Laveau. So, in all, Mary Laveau did much more during her life than lead voodoo ceremonies. She performed notable acts of community service, such as nursing yellow fever patients. That's what you were saying.
Mhm.
Um, Posting bail for free women of color, and visited condemned prisoners to pray with them in their final hours. Like, she sounds like a friggin' saint, which is good. When she died on June 15th, 1881, she was largely celebrated by newspapers in New Orleans and beyond. Some, however, danced around the question of whether or not she had ever practiced voodoo. Others disparaged her as a sinful woman who led midnight orgies. I think they're jealous.
True.
After her death in 1881, her legend only continued to grow. Was Marie Laveau a voodoo queen, a good Samaritan, or both? I think both myself. The secrets of her life, however, could only be obtained from the old lady herself. And again, the New York Times wrote, but she could never tell the smallest part of what she knew about what she knew, and now her lids are closed forever. Many mysteries remain about Mary Laveau, but what is certain is that her rise wouldn't have been possible anywhere but New Orleans.
During the yellow fever outbreak, they were
Oh,
using traditional bloodletting, those types of
yeah,
practices. She went in with her herbs, her herbal medicine, and she helped a
yeah.
lot of people survive that. Prisoners that were
Wow.
getting ready to be executed, she would cook their meals. She would go in and pray with them. She went to mass daily. Um, there were some that
Wow.
they claimed that she actually gave poison and different medicines to so that their execution would be swifter.
Oh
I
my
don't know,
gosh.
which may or may
She
not be
sounds like
true.
a saint.
She does. She does.
She really does. I'd like to believe that story. There's comments here. This girl named Carolyn says, "This is a very good summary of the truth about Marie Laveau. Please credit the source of your information." Okay. The Legend and Reality of Marie Laveau by Carolyn Morrow Long. Ouch. Okay, I didn't realize it was going to be that kind of comment. And then it says down here, "Dear Miss Long, unfortunately, it does not appear you have been credited by the author of this blurb for it." Oh my gosh. This one says, very simplistic overview of the religion, Voodoo. Whether West African, Haitian, or Persian as practiced in New Orleans, it's much more complex and nuanced than suggested here. It honors nature and the ancestors in addition to the Iwa and Bondi. Having been to and written about a voodoo pilgrimage on Haiti's Central Plateau, there's nothing unusual about Laveau having been a pillar to a community. So mambos and priestesses, high priestesses generally are. I know your article meant to respect voodoo, but some further depth and indeed attribution were appropriate, including where more reading might be done. Might have been appropriate here. Alrighty then.
Everything that was said was in the public domain, so I don't know why that other lady was so annoyed.
I don't know.
And it wasn't meant to be in depth. It was just an overview of her life and
Yeah,
her history. So they need to get
that's
over
all I
themselves.
wanted to really read, just to get the gist of it. Hey Jen with no filter. Hey Dragon Mama. Hey Mama 3. Do you want to show that or play that song?
You want to hear the song? All right.
Yeah, I want to hear it. So this is a song that Was it Tina? I think it was Tina that said so.
Let me see where it.
Yeah, it was Tina.
I'm getting ready to share it. Share screen.
Brady. There it is. Actually, that was freaking great. That was catchy. So you, hey Kimmy, so you guys both know it's Tina and Selah. Do you want to come up too, actually, Selah? Because you know a lot about this stuff. You'll like her, Karen. I'm sure she'll come up. She's very lovely. Mississippi Squirrel. I do have a video here. I'll play that now.
The results strongly support that these beings are not closely related to any known organism.
Oh, you guys
On
ever
Earth.
watch it on here?
He was
Oops.
There's something to be said.
Okay. Watch your girl.
My high school was actually located across the street from Bayou St. John, which is the bayou where she held all of her rituals.
Oh yeah. Wow. Hey, Selah.
Hey,
Hey, Sarah.
hey. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry, I had to cut my YouTube
Ray
off in the
Stevens.
background. Yeah, I didn't know you were covering this. I'm kind of that's crazy. I did like a really extensive research thing on
Yeah.
this like 4 years ago. I was like, what? When I saw that advertisement.
Oh, well, I'm doing it because I've been watching American Horror Story again, and there's a lot of things on there. Well, every episode, everything's based on true story. Like not everything's real, but there's
Yeah.
truth to it, right? So I
Yeah.
wanted to get into it because I was curious about this. I already did the Madame LaLaurie, that crazy chick.
Yeah.
That was horrible what she did.
She was bad.
I knew
Bad.
that she like sewed the eyes shut, but when I was reading that she actually put crap in their mouth and sewed it shut, like seriously, what the
Feces.
hell's wrong with you?
Yeah. And other stuff with the servants,
Yeah.
really bad.
So I just finished watching that season.
Oh, that must have been
How's
Coven.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm on Freak Show.
It is a freak show.
Next is one of my favorite ones, is Hotel. I love it. I don't know, there's just something I think I do because of all the serial killers that are in it.
Right. When you watch
On
serial
Halloween.
killers, it's like
Yeah, it's
no. Well, we just watched the last one actually that they did, and you know what? There's always some kind of predictive programming if you notice when you watch the American Horror Stories. They always like
yeah.
have some kind of prediction of some stuff that comes. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like they're on the ball. I mean, like their last season, season 11, broke my heart. I actually cried.
Yeah.
That was hard to watch. I mean, I knew about it, but not like that. So I've
Mhm.
actually got a bunch of tabs open because I want to, um, I don't know, I want to do a live on it.
I
There
wonder,
was like
is
an
there?
actual serial killer.
That's what I was going to say. And is he in Germany? Was he called the Masked Man, or did? Because I was
If
reading
this,
yesterday about that, and it has to do with the little girl that went missing, Madeline McCann, and they think that possibly this man that I'm talking about, he wore a mask, wore black leather gloves, and black, and he was like they said over 6'5". He was really tall, like the guy
yeah,
on the last one. You know what I'm talking about? The big guy on the
yep,
last, yeah. And I was like, when I was reading that, I was like, oh my gosh. And this man,
right?
yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know if that was some kind of a connection or not.
He's called the last call killer. the bag murders and the last call killer. That's what he's called.
Oh.
And he was in New York at the time of the blackout, and he was killing gay men
Oh, I
at
didn't
the
know
time when
that.
AIDS hit. Yeah. Well, like I said, like this show, when I was watching it, it was like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar, or this is actually true. So I would always go back and look at everything that was truth about it. And so I researched it, and I want to do a live on it.
Oh yeah, you
Just,
should. Because that really
yeah,
broke my
because
heart too.
it
Watching
did.
that, I have a lot of gay friends, and actually, one of mine, he lives in Tennessee, but he had a friend that got killed in the Pulse nightclub shooting. That was like several years back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Roanoke one, that one was based on truth as well. And then, yes, of course, the
I think they
fabulous
all
Leslie
are.
Jordan passed. Yeah, every
Yeah.
single one of them. I love Leslie Jordan. He was in Celebrity Big Brother, if you guys want to watch that too. Should be on YouTube still. He's hilarious. I love that guy. That little short one. He's so cute.
The little short one.
He was on the council for the Coven.
Oh, are you talking about Leslie?
Yeah.
He played on Will and Grace
I
too.
just love him.
Beverly Leslie, he was on Will and Grace, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He just passed
He's
away
on
not long ago.
the Roanoke season, and he's on the Coven season.
Oh,
Can't
okay. Yeah,
remember
yeah,
the
yeah.
more girl. Okay, goodness. I'm just all over the place. When he died, you cried. I bet. He was awesome.
I did
He is
too.
in Celebrity Big Brother, though, if you guys want to give it a watch. He's so funny. He gets into it with this girl named Frenchie. And she rips up his silk pajamas, and he loses it. He's like, "You effing French slut."
I used to love him on Will and Grace, and he would come out like he'd talk to Karen at the very end whenever they came back with those 4 seasons or 3 seasons. He was like, "I've got to tell you something, Karen." The way he would talk, I
Yeah.
would just like laugh. I mean, I could not. And my husband and I both watched that, and we cry laughing every single time he comes on there. He's so funny.
I forgot that he was on that. I want to watch it. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
He's hilarious. In Roanoke, what the hell? He was a psychic.
Oh, I need to go back. I didn't watch the Roanoke one, so I need to go
No,
back.
no.
Mm-mm. I did watch Coven. I watched, and that was whenever it was on. Actual at
You
that
love the
time.
Coven.
That was like that's where I got started watching it. Actually, was in Coven.
I just seen it. I heard about it, but I'm in Canada. We're not even supposed to get that show, so I have to cheat. But I remember I kept hearing it, and I seen something on Shutter, I think it was, and then there was like a little commercial or something, and so I went on YouTube and I watched the trailer, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is right up my alley. So I've been watching it ever since.
Well, Marie Laveau is all over in the Coven episode of that, and a lot of
Oh
that
yeah,
was so. A lot of it. I mean, they exaggerate a lot of stuff, but a lot of it
yeah,
was very accurate. She really was. She did do hair. She did do that, and she actually a lot of that stuff is real. Like from
yeah. I know. I love it. I mean, I love that it's based on facts.
yeah.
Every single episode was. I mean, even the cult one, like it was just
Yeah, that
wow.
was a crazy season. That one was like kind of blew my mind a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah, mine too. I've watched all of them. I'm just rewatching them all again. Then I'm going to be back on season 11. And I think I'll do a live this weekend about it because I don't know. I think people need to see it.
Yeah,
It was important.
what did you think about the one before that? Remember they half the season up in the first season. They
Yeah,
didn't.
that annoyed me because
It was
I was watching season 10 and I liked the fact that there was those vampires type
yeah,
deal. Then The Walking Dead, that was cool. And then all of a sudden it switched to aliens. And then when I
yeah,
watched it, I'm going, there's like JFK, there's Bobby Kennedy and all that. And then there's
right.
Marilyn Monroe. And it was like, holy shit, that's what happened to her.
Right. And how about Eisenhower and being taken to Area
Yeah.
51 and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Like, I still think all that stuff is real. And, like,
Oh,
if
me
you look right
too.
now, look at all the alien invasion stuff they're talking about now. Like, they have our
In
president
Canada
supposedly
too.
shooting stuff down. I said he's like skeet shooting at UFOs. I don't know what he's
Yeah,
doing.
keep shooting it.
Like, they're going to
Yeah,
call
you're right.
someone
It is
to
split into two and it was like two different seasons put into one. And
that was a weird one, kind of. because I really
I
got
loved
into
it though
the first
for
one. Yeah, the first part of that season 10, like I wanted that to continue on. Like,
yeah,
and they could have done the other one the next season. It seemed like they could have. I don't know why they
done
did it
more with
like
it
that.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird because when I remember when I was watching it, and then all of a sudden it went to that the back in the day, the government and all this. I'm like, what the? Okay, this is screwed up. Clearly, this where I'm watching this, the feed I'm watching this on, it messed us up. This must be another part of another season or something. Even though I watched them, I'm like, what
That's what
the
I thought.
hell?
I thought I was
I was
messing
so
up somehow. I was
confused.
like, am I on the right thing? Did I do something? Did I go to another season?
Yeah,
I didn't know what happened.
I was so
But I really
confused.
wish they brought up Stanley Kubrick and the fake moon landing and all that stuff.
Yes.
Like that
Oh my
was,
God, yes.
and the cloning stuff, like the mixing of
To make the perfect baby
yeah,
and all those experiments going down in the basement.
yes.
I mean, what happened with the black pills? I don't know if that's true or not, to be honest. That season 10 was a little, I
Oh,
believe the alien part, but I'm wondering, there's a movie called The Serpent and the Rainbow by Wes Craven, and it was based off zombies, voodoo and whatnot.
right.
And I was thinking maybe that's what it was about. A little bit, maybe that truth, like, because it was a true story. So I'm just wondering, I don't know.
I think the black pill might have had something to do with like demonic possession or something because those whenever they took that pill, it was like them choosing to sell their soul almost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To be what they were because they wanted to be, they wanted to be an extra, like how it made them excel in their
Oh yeah.
whatever. You know what I'm saying? I think didn't it make them turn to whatever if they weren't
Yeah,
right or
if you
something?
didn't have talent, you'd turn
Right, it
into
made
one of those
one of
zombie
the
things.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Those blood, well, vampires. I don't know. That's one of the seasons I never researched, at all.
Yeah, I
Maybe I
just
should
wonder because you've
see
seen
what's
like
true, what's not.
if you watched a lot of music videos and stuff, you'll notice when they're simulating somebody being like demonically possessed. Like, what's her name? My daughter has listened to her a good bit, and Billie Eilish. Well, she'll
Okay.
cry and she'll show like all the black coming out of her eyes, crying. I don't know if y'all noticed
Yeah.
that, but it is like it's like a, what I'm saying, like a, what do you call that when an example, I guess,
Yeah.
like that. I think, and maybe that's what it was about. I know there was black beauties back in the day that was like speed, but I don't think it would make it turn into a vampire.
Yeah.
Didn't have
Yeah, that
talent.
one's questionable, but I bet you there's some truth to
There's
it.
something to it. You better believe there's
Yeah.
something somewhere.
Hey, Benita. So I found this video and I'm gonna play it. And it's about Marie Laveau. So I was gonna play this. It's only 11 minutes long, so I'm just gonna play this. Let me know if I have to mute. I might echo.
About the city of New Orleans, a city that so profoundly captures both the old world and the new in its never-ending nightlife, its renowned cuisine, and the celebration of a diverse African, French, and American culture. Indeed, it seems like the sort of place where if magic could take place, it would be here, in the Big Easy. Of course, this brings me to one of New Orleans' most
Yeah,
notable
there she
residents,
is right there,
Marie
guys.
Laveau,
There's Marie
the woman
Laveau
said to be
from
the Voodoo
American
Queen.
Horror Story.
Mhm.
Yep. Angela Bassett. Oh my God, I love that dresser and that mirror and that. Okay, I can
She's
shut up.
beautiful.
Despite having been dead for over 200 years now, people still say that Marie Laveau has power over the city. Going by what the legends say about her voodoo practices, Laveau would perform remarkable feats, some saying they are nothing short of miracles. In this video, we'll primarily be focusing on Louisiana voodoo, or New Orleans voodoo, which is a product of the religion Voodoo, though heavily influenced by the Christian and French culture of New Orleans, in which Marie Laveau would become a staple of. Although there is plenty of information about Marie Laveau in the legends and lore of New Orleans, separating the facts from myth isn't exactly easy. We know little of Laveau's early life, other than that she was likely born in 1801 to a wealthy plantation owner, as some sources say, and his black mistress. Her father, who is also cited as being Charles Laveau, may also have been something of a politician, going on to become a mayor of New Orleans in 1812. Her mother was named Marguerite, and was also said to be something of a voodoo practitioner. We also know that Laveau would go on to marry a man named Jacques Paris, a carpenter who would give her 2 children. However, Paris would
And that was the white husband, wasn't it? The carpenter?
I thought so.
No, the white husband is Glapion.
Oh,
That
so
she
what?
could never legally marry. They were together 30 years, though.
Right. And didn't
Yeah.
he have all
Okay.
the like property and all that kind of stuff that she ended up getting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sold real estate.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the family's still very big into real estate and business and all in New Orleans, from what I recall.
Wow.
I bet. There's a very
Suddenly
heavy
go
spirit.
missing in 1820.
What's
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say so. I was just going to say, I can feel that whenever I went to New Orleans. Literally, I was a kid and I could feel that. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
So when I went back later and I went into that place that was called in Jefferson Square where she used to go sometimes, and that Catholic church, and she used to do her voodoo practices there because the priest let her in there to do it. Like, I went there as a
Wow.
kid and stuff every August, every year when we went did a pageant there. So we went there, and like when I found out about all that, it was just so weird because it was just like
Yeah.
I can remember
That is
all of that. That is so weird.
And
it
my video
is.
actually discussed the priest that you're referring to.
Oh, really?
Yes, at St. Louis Cathedral.
Yes. Wow. It looks like Cinderella's castle, exactly.
Other way around.
So pretty.
Yeah, St. Louis Cathedral's
4,
beautiful.
whereby Laveau would speak of his death, claiming to be a widow. Though it's equally believable that Paris had simply deserted Laveau, but that she was too prideful to admit this. After all, she was described as being a beautiful woman, tall with dark curly hair and golden skin. At the pinnacle of her notoriety, tabloids would describe her as having good features. Good features at the time meaning that she appeared to have the physical traits of a white woman more than a black one. After Paris's death, Marie would begin working in a beauty parlor as a hairdresser. This is actually one of the most important parts of her life, for it's here that she would service the wealthy white and Creole women of New Orleans, whereby they would confide in her their most intimate secrets, desires, information about their husbands, lovers, their estates, and family.
I just love the way they dress back. Like, wow.
I did too.
Mhm.
Did y'all
Every
ever
day was a
see Interview
dress
with
up
the
day.
Vampire? Like it was that time period of Interview with the Vampire. They were all
Yeah.
dressed like during that time period in New Orleans, and a matter of fact, and like all the dresses and the extra, even the men, the way they dressed, it was so
Yeah.
ooh, fancy.
What's interesting is that a voodoo historian actually says that there is no proof that she ever was a hairdresser. Although it makes
Really?
better sense that she was a hairdresser to get all their secrets. That way
Right.
she could
Yeah.
pretend to give people information that she had no way of knowing, and that would make her clairvoyant. But he said there's actually no historical proof that she was a hairdresser, which I found interesting.
I think she is though, and I think her bloodline
Yeah.
also stayed in that same. A lot of them, I think, followed in that same footstep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people, like my mom was a hairdresser, I'm a hairdresser, my children are, what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, it seems to run in families and stuff, like
Yeah.
even
Like pop.
gifts and stuff. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a gift or a talent. Like, you're just born with it or you're not. And
Yeah.
supposedly she would also get their hair because, um, you know, and spells and things like that back in the day when I used
Yeah.
to, look into all that kind of stuff. I know that hair was a big thing to be able to get a hold of somebody's hair. Like, you got to be careful who you let people have your hair. I'm just being honest. You do.
Yeah. Isn't that what they used to make voodoo dolls too?
They can, yeah.
And it's used in
Yeah.
gris-gris bags.
Great. I was going to say the Gregory bags because that Marie Laveau is the one that actually I think came up with the Gregory bags, didn't she?
No, that came over from Africa.
Oh, did it? Okay.
They made them there. They used to give them as gifts to other tribes. They would put
Mhm.
together different herbs and things that one tribe had that another didn't, and they'd put them in bags and bring them. And it was called a gris-gris bag, a gift bag.
Mhm.
And that's where it
Oh.
started.
Okay, I was gonna say, but I think she like really is wasn't she like one of the main ones though that started doing that like here as far as in our area? Like I just remember reading or hearing like she like I mean I'm sure other people did it too, but like she was really known for that of doing the Gregory bags.
Probably because she was so popular, she did more of them and
Yeah,
was more well known.
she's so well known, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I would
people
have never,
still,
never have known about any of these women if I didn't watch American Horror Story. That's why I really, really, really enjoy that show. Every season, there's truth in it, and then I just love researching stuff like this. Like I would have never have known, especially about the AIDS pandemic in New York. I would have never known, or even about that serial killer. I wouldn't have known without that show.
Oh yeah,
No
they do
clue.
show a lot of stuff.
And
Yeah.
people still bring locks of their hair to the address where she used to live on Royal. It's not the same home anymore, but they have a display on the outside and people leave locks of their hair for her.
I think I saw that when I was studying that. And also, her tomb where she's at, people will leave gifts and offerings. Even now, to this day, they will like leave stuff at her.
Yeah, we were seeing that on her grave there.
Yeah.
There was well, the Mardi Gras beads, and I think there were some flowers, and then they did the 3 X's.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Mardi Gras was just going on, wasn't it?
Yesterday.
might
Yeah,
still be now, yeah.
yesterday.
What a good time to do this.
Yeah, that's yeah, because the Great Dane Mom, she's like, oh, because we were talking about doing it, and then she's like, well, we'll do it Wednesday because Tuesday's Mardi Gras. I'm like, okay.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Very universally.
Affairs. Many believe that this wealth of information that Laveau would receive on a daily basis is what gave her political leverage, and is the reason why she was able to rise up through the social ranks. Laveau would later begin a relationship with a man named Louis Christophe de Glapion, a man from a powerful local family, whom she would bear 15 children to, in rapid succession. It would lead her to quit hairdressing and devote her time to raising her brood. It's here she began to take interest in her mother's voodoo practices and traditional African beliefs. Voodoo had a sinister reputation for itself in Louisiana, and was even banned at several points. Many believed it was the art of the devil, and that it was here to usurp Christianity, turning Christians and good folk onto a darker path filled with mystics and magics. Of course, many who held this view were not entirely familiar with voodoo and traditional African beliefs, and were likely to embellish the practice to serve their own agenda, citing it as evil, corrupt, or otherwise blasphemous. But this didn't stop Laveau and many of her clientele from practicing voodoo. In fact, Laveau herself would learn most.
Holy shit, is that Papa Legba from the show?
I think
Wow.
it is. That's the hat. You see the top hat, and then
Yeah.
you can see the thing in his hand with the skull on the end of it. And
Yeah.
a snake around his neck. Yeah, that's him.
So he's a real deal? Like
He's an actual, I think, some kind of you see people in New Orleans even sometimes dress up like him, like wear the top hat and the
Wow.
makeup. I'm not sure what role he played, but I do remember that and reading about that.
Wow.
of her craft from a voodoo doctor in New Orleans, who was simply and rather insidiously known as Dr. John.
Voodoo doctor.
What separates Louisiana voodoo from voodoo and other forms of voodoo is the Catholic influence that people like Laveau infused with it. Louisiana voodoo would incorporate holy water, incense, statues of saints, and even consisted of Christian prayers, thus making it more acceptable to the upper class and more appealing to those who were devout to Christianity. A lot of Laveau's beliefs included spiritual forces, as is common in all voodoo, whereby the spirits which are summoned can be either benign or mischievous. The idea was that these spirits connected with the followers of voodoo, guiding them, imparting some form of divine knowledge, or simply bringing good vibes. How this was achieved was through a mixture of dance, music, singing, and even the use of snakes. In fact, Laveau herself was even said to have worn a pet snake around her neck, which was named Zombie. Some of Marie's notable services as a voodoo queen include the selling of gree-gree bag.
Oh, I was just going to say, is that the bags you're talking about? But
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's the exact
amulet
ones,
originating from Africa
yeah.
that is said to bring fortune and protect the wearer from evil. The gree-gree bags were said to contain a variety of ingredients that were blessed by voodoo queens or voodoo doctors to bring the wearer a certain effect or destiny. Charms, magical powders, ailments, and desire-granting ornaments, including those that could destroy a customer's enemies, were also sold by Laveau. She would also conduct spiritual readings, telling fortunes, giving advice to those who sought it, and casting spells including cures, charms, or even curses for the right price. However, some historians believe that Laveau's feared powers were actually just clever acts, and that all of her divine knowledge about people's lives was merely acquired by the recording of many secrets that were spilled to her by her clients. Bearing in mind, she would be serving many prominent households in New Orleans, some of them likely to divulge certain sensitive information, given her warm and compassionate persona. It's suggested that Laveau would use this information to further her own status, or would use this information to build the idea that she was indeed all knowledgeable. Another account has it that Laveau would use the black servants of rich whites to obtain information, and that she would do this by either instilling fear into the servants, threatening to curse or hex them, or simply pay them off. There is one story of Laveau's powers that would captivate all of New Orleans. Supposedly, a wealthy man's son was accused of a rape allegation and was set to face a long jail sentence. The evidence against the wealthy man's son was damning, and it looked to be an open and shut case. Desperate to ensure his son's freedom, and out of all options to achieve it, the wealthy man went to Laveau for aid. In exchange for her success in this matter, he would offer her a house. Laveau agreed and hosted a voodoo ritual where she underwent a form of self-torture. She placed 3 ridiculously hot guinea peppers in her mouth and held them there for hours as she appeased to the spirits. In voodoo, the belief is that the spirits take pity on those under great suffering, and so Laveau would use her pain to draw the spirits out and grant her what she sought.
So did she get the house?
Yeah, the judge gave her a house, or the guy gave her a house. But she put some kind of a thing under the chair of the judge that was trying over the case, like this. Supposedly, it was the spell that she cast that like got him off of the trial. I remember studying this. Like
Wow.
this is a big case. I think it's like really known.
We use a guinea pepper. Harder than
Is this I think this is the orgy part.
When the gods
Talking
see
about
this
maybe.
willingness to suffer, to sacrifice, they pay attention.
There it is.
On the day of the hearing, Laveau snuck into the courthouse and placed the guinea peppers that had been in her mouth under the seat of the judge. Some believe that the energy from the spiritually enhanced peppers caused the judge to set the wealthy man's son free. As was the agreement, the wealthy man would then grant Laveau the house he had promised her. However, some historians dispute this case, stating that if such an occurrence did in fact take place, then it's likely that Laveau would have known the judge through her social circles, or would at least known something incriminating about the judge for which she would have used to blackmail him with. Of course, she would have still used her voodoo theatrics to convince New Orleans that she did indeed possess magical powers, but some believe that the basis of her powers was merely political manipulation and intimidation. When Laveau passed away in 1881, she was said to have died with a smile on her face. Reporters of the time referred to her not as a sinister practitioner of dark magic, but as the kindest woman who ever lived, a saintly figure who nursed the sick and spread compassion amongst the diseased and the condemned. Laveau is buried in St. Louis Cemetery, in the Laveau-Glapion family crypt.
Yeah, so there it is. So there's flat. I don't know what this stuff is on the bottom.
People
It's
leave
very
all kind of
colorful,
stuff.
though.
Yeah, the people leave all kind of like, what do they call offerings? That's what they call them.
I'm surprised there's not more X's.
It's clear.
They've had to, I
The
think,
whole
paint it.
side
Haven't
of
they
it.
had to redo it a couple times, like repaint it?
Vandals painted it, covered it over with pink latex paint. The latex paint was going to eat the plaster, so they had to get that off.
Ooh,
No, they clean it off periodically.
yeah.
Hmm.
Imagine if they didn't, it would get really over.
Yeah, because I was gonna say if they didn't do that, this thing would have been loaded. Like you
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to see white, is what I would imagine.
In fact, when I saw it, it didn't even look that clean. So I must have seen a different
Okay.
year or picture when I looked at it.
Yeah.
Of course, now you can only get in if you're a family member or with a tour.
Wow.
General public's
I would
not
love
allowed.
just to walk in
Oh,
there and
really?
observe.
Yes, this was pre-Katrina or post-Katrina. They stopped it because
Oh.
when they
Wow.
painted her grave, that was kind of like the last straw. So the archdiocese shut it down and only allowed registered family members, and if you're with a registered tour group, that's the only way you can get into St. Louis #1 now.
Yeah, we went back in the
Wow.
70s, so I guess that was way before Katrina. That's crazy.
The burials are in vaults above ground, where Laveau's tomb attracts many visitors, even to this day. Many slabs in the area, including Laveau's own tomb, are marked by visitors with an X symbol. The idea stems from a decades-old rumor that Laveau would grant wishes from beyond the grave if an X was marked on her tomb. Supposedly, the ritual goes something along the lines of marking an X on the tomb, turning around 3 times, knocking on the tomb, and then yelling out your wish. Should the wish come true, then the wisher would need to come back, circle the X so others would know of Laveau's power, and then leave the voodoo queen an offering.
Wow.
One of Laveau's daughters, also named Marie Laveau, was said to carry on her mother's mantle after her death. By some accounts, she was the spitting image of her mother, though what she had in looks, she lacked in her mother's spirit. Some have said that she did not possess the warmth and compassion of her mother, and was more inclined to inspire fear. One of her most notable talents was the ability to fulfill the desire of any man. She would hold lavish parties at Maison Blanche, a building for the congregation of blacks and whites in New Orleans, where women would dance naked for men, politicians, and high officials. Essentially, this building, amongst others, would become something of a brothel. but it was never raided by the police, who feared that if they intervened, Marie Laveau II would curse them. Some would say that Marie Laveau II drowned in a lake after a big storm. Ever
Wow.
since then, both Laveaux have sunk into obscurity. Marie Laveau continues to be a central figure of Louisiana voodoo, however, and of New Orleans culture. It's said that gamblers even shout her name when throwing dice, or before big stakes. Additionally, there have been multiple tales of sightings of the Voodoo Queen, even to this day. And that wraps up the tale of Marie Laveau. But was she a powerful Voodoo Queen, capable of cures and curses, and contacting spirits? Or was she more of a political player, using a network of spies and her own cunning to enhance and embellish her abilities? You tell me in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and hit the subscribe button. Our next occult legend...
I did, sir. Hey, that high guy.
So what say you?
Huh?
What do you think? What do you think? What do y'all think? Do y'all think that it was just one or the other, or do you think it was a mix of both? I think it was a mix of both, personally.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you really want it and if you really try and will it, then you'll believe, sort of thing. I have to agree with the both.
Yeah. I definitely think she had powers, for sure.
Me too.
100%. Because like I said, I know that people are born with powers and they can use it how they want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can use it for good or you can use it for bad. And like, I'm not saying she was bad or anything, but I think she did consort with, you know, familiar spirits and demons and things like that because of the voodoo and stuff. That's just my personal belief. Like, everybody doesn't have to believe what I believe. That's just what I believe. But do you know, I think that Disney even based the Toad and the Frog. Do y'all remember that new Disney movie that came out? I think the woman in the woods, the lady that was singing, I think that was based on a character of Marie Laveau. Because it was in the bayou of New Orleans. Y'all remember that movie? I mean, it was one of the most recent ones, I think, more recent ones.
There's a fairy tale on it as well.
Is there?
I believe so. I have a book of fairy tales. I was reading them.
Yeah, I remember I was there when you were reading a few of those.
Yeah, and
like
the one
Grimm tales or Grimm fairy tales.
Yeah, they were supposed to be fairy tales. They were terrifying.
They're
But
not.
I'm pretty sure I've seen the one about the Toad and the Frog. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
If this, that high guy says, if this magic is real, the lady knew some access to it. I really do believe we lost some type of something long ago. What we call magic. It's a theory of mine. Yeah, I could agree to that.
They mentioned the spy network. One of the things that actually has not come out in any of the studies that I've done, but I know for a fact is that what they would do, the women, one would hear something and then they would start a song. And each block in that whole neighborhood, that's how they transmitted messages to each other, since they weren't necessarily free to leave and go talk to their neighbor, and they obviously didn't have telephones. So they would sing a message, a coded message, to let people know what was going on in the neighborhood without anyone else knowing. So
that's really cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so if someone came into the neighborhood that they wanted everyone to be aware of, an alert would go out, a warning would go out, and it would be spread by song.
That's
a good idea.
Still now in the hood. If you go to the hood now, they almost like, you know what I'm saying, get messages from one to another fast. Like if somebody's in there that's not supposed to be there, you know. So I wonder if it's almost like a takeoff, or you know what I'm saying, from something like that.
Yeah.
Because I've lived in neighborhoods like where that, you know, that if somebody was coming on in there that wasn't supposed to be there or didn't, you know, need to be there,
you
like,
find it
spread
quick.
the word. Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
My feisty Cajun great-grandfather disowned my grandmother for marrying a Protestant, but every Easter he would come by to jump all over her because she had 8 children and no one went to mass for Easter. And when he come putting in his Model T, whatever car they had back in the 40s, one of the neighbors at the entrance to that area that recognized his vehicle would call another friend. They had like a phone tree, would call another friend who would call another friend who would end up calling my grandmother, who would call the neighbor across the street to come over to have coffee. Well, he would come over to fuss, and after a couple of years, he realized that every time he showed up, this woman was there having coffee, and he caught on, so he would just scream at her in Cajun French. So,
wow. I don't even know what that would sound like. Cajun French. I have no idea.
Like French.
You know, and I wonder about Marie Laveau. They talk about, you know, how beautiful she was and how she had more
Yeah.
white woman features, you know, and there was a lot of like they call them red bone, like Cajun women back then because they would be a mix of like French and African, a lot of
That's
them.
Yeah.
that's Creole.
Creole, that's it.
Yeah,
That's what.
Cajuns.
I didn't mean
Cajun.
Cajun, I meant Creole, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we came from France to Nova
Right.
Scotia, and then
But
down to Thibodeau-Homa
French,
area. Right.
yeah, it's like French, what you said, French
French
Creole,
Creole.
whatever. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's it. And I
And then
used to
there's
love.
Spanish Creole.
I was just gonna say I used to love to go down there. Like like the heritage of all that is so interesting. I find it like I like Louisiana, and I loved.
Yeah, I want to go so badly.
Yeah, my
I want to go in
husband's
a lot
never
of
been.
places.
He wants to go too. I wish he could
Yeah.
have gone pre Katrina. I don't know how. I mean, how much are you still? Are you there? Do you live around there? Have you been there? Um.
Yeah, I'm from there. I'm born and
Oh,
raised.
okay. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
So
And
have you been back lately?
not well. It's been almost a year since I've been back.
That's pretty recent.
Pretty recent.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah.
recent. I moved away right before Katrina because I knew that was going to happen one day, and unfortunately, I was
See, there
right.
you go. That's what I'm
I
talking about. Like some people just have a gift of knowing
Yeah.
Mhm.
things.
Yeah. Well, I'm 62 years old. Well, actually, I'm 63. And I remember Betsy and Camille, the two major hurricanes that had hit in the 60s, remember them very vividly. And every year, the meteorologist, Nash Roberts, would come on and say, this could be the year of the big one. This could be the year of the big one. And I was
Hmm.
That's
terrified.
scary.
Putting
And
that fear
Yeah.
out
and I
there.
don't think you were in chat even when we did the other one, but the house I grew up in used to be swampland, and they filled it in and built homes. Well, my house was built in an area where they did voodoo rituals. We moved
Oh,
into it
wow.
when I was 6 years
Whoa.
old, and one night I saw this dark shadow of a woman because it had the turban, and the arm went up, the
Oh,
hand
my.
went up with a knife and came down swiftly. And I never felt comfortable in that house. I always knew when people died, told my mother before they
Oh,
died,
my God.
and my mother
See?
would say, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." And then 2 hours later, the phone would ring, and so had died. And
Yep.
I was probably a teenager, and I walked up to her, and she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Someone died, but I don't know who." And she said, "What do you mean you don't know who? You always know who." And I said, "I don't know because it's like it's family, but it's not family. It doesn't make
Mhm.
sense. I don't know who." A couple hours later, the phone rang. My cousin's live-in boyfriend had dropped dead of a heart attack.
Wow.
That's
And
crazy. That same stuff happens to me. That is so crazy.
Yeah,
Like
the
knowing
same
people are
happens
gonna
to me
die
also.
and like I'll have a dream about them. Like my
That's
ex,
crazy. We all
my,
have that.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and it was
Wow.
eerie
Um,
going back after Katrina. I waited probably a good 9 months, and I stayed in Metairie. And my cousin should have driven instead of having me drive because as soon as we went over onto Pontchartrain Boulevard, it was like going into a third world country. You could still see the
oh my
water line.
God.
And I'm
Mm.
just driving up the street, and all I could just say was, wow, wow.
This was 9 months later.
Yeah,
Mm.
and you lose all sense of direction because the street signs aren't there. Things were
Yeah, they
destroyed.
don't
So
doesn't
you don't
nothing
have
look the same.
all of your landmarks.
Gosh. I
And I
can't even
swear,
imagine going and watching that after that, seeing that like
yeah,
that in person. Because I was
That would be
crying watching it
heartbreaking.
on like just the news. I was crying. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Just from
That was like
visiting
the biggest
there,
thing
you know?
was
I went
Katrina.
up on the porch. It was the house I grew up in that I owned, and of course, the picture window had the X from the National Guard checking it for bodies. The attic stairs were
Mm,
down. The front door was open. And I just stood in the doorway, looked in, and cried. It's like
Oh,
yeah, I would too.
really,
Especially
really,
seeing the X and stuff like, oh my.
yeah.
yeah.
Somewhere I have pictures of all that. Somewhere.
I would
Um,
love to see them
if
if
I
that's
find them, I'll
okay.
put them up in Discord, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
But let me know when you're ready for my video.
I'm ready.
It shows the current location where she had the house. It goes into the priest, the cemetery, her history a little bit. So it gives a little bit more different information than what we've seen before. All
All
right.
right, yeah, we'll do that. We'll play that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always thought of New Orleans as magical as well, Benita. I don't know what it is.
It is got something. You can feel it.
Mm,
I can feel it
I
when
know
I'm there. I can
everybody who's
feel it.
from there always says that to me. It's magical.
It is. It's completely different from any. And I've traveled all 50 states, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Mexico, the Caribbean. There's nothing. The city is so completely different from any place in the world I've been.
Yeah.
There's
I'd love
something
some of
in the
that.
atmosphere. I can't explain it. I was like 7 or 8, I remember, and my mom was driving down Bourbon Street, and like I
Mhm.
didn't know anything about at that time anything about anything with that, and I busted out crying. I'm not even kidding, and I was like, "Get me out of this wicked city!" And I was just crying so hard, and I don't even know why. Like I had a
Yeah.
reaction like that because I love to go to New Orleans. Every year I look forward to it. We'd never just gone down Bourbon Street. I don't know if it was just that area per se, maybe.
Probably, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
Bourbon
I'd love to
Street's
go
changed
to
so
Myrtle's
much.
plantation.
Yeah. When I was young and would go, it was a lot of strip clubs,
Uh-huh.
a lot of that kind of stuff. Now it's a lot of touristy T-shirt shops,
Yeah.
places for alcohol. Royal Avenue has all the like art galleries and antique stores. Um, yeah, Burgundy, all the areas down there. But the gentleman in this video is a voodoo priest, and the lady is someone who gives tours.
Oh, cool.
And I'm going to play it at 1.5 speed if I can.
Our house is actually at 1020,
Usually do
1022
too. I'm just gonna run to the
where it
phone
used
booth
to
real
be,
quick.
and we just arrived. And as you can see, take a look at the offerings. Now, this is not our house. Obviously, this is not our house. We don't know what our house may or may have looked like. And actually, Sandy would know more about this, actually.
I mean, her house was most likely a Creole cottage because that would have been built during that time period. And actually, we have at 1015 St. Anne a nice example of a Creole cottage. And that's probably what her house would have looked like. Maybe not as well kept up during that time period.
Now, as far as her house and her cottage and historical records of if she owned one house or several houses, what do we know about that?
So what we know about this particular piece of property is that at one point in time, her maternal grandmother owned this property. She actually bought it in 1798. And so a house would have been constructed, like I say, much likely a Creole cottage sometime after that. And by the time Marie Laveau was born, she's born in September of 1801. We know this, we're pretty sure we know this because we have the baptismal records. And baptismal records, it usually would have occurred about 6 days after your birth. So that baptism is occurring in St. Louis Cathedral, and Père Antoine is actually overseeing that baptism. And she most likely grew up in the house that would have existed on this piece of property, but that's kind of where she goes off the record for a while. So we don't know anything about Marie Laveau from the time she's born until we pick her back up in the archival records in 1819 when she marries Jacques Curie.
Tell us about that.
So we know she marries Jacques Curie in 1819. She's 18 years old when she marries him. He is a free man of color. He's come from Saint-Domingue, which is now modern-day Haiti. So he probably came after the Haitian slave uprisings occurred. So they're wed in St. Louis Cathedral. Again, Père Antoine is officiating that ceremony. And then we know, even though a lot of people think they didn't have any children together, they actually had 2 kids. So they had 2 daughters. One was named Marie. The other was named Felicity. One was born in 1823. The other in 1824. We don't have anything after that. So they probably didn't live past childhood. And then sometime around 1825, we hear people talking about how Jacques Curie disappears. Now, in all honesty, this whole disappearing thing is just honest to God because humans like a mystery. It is not that mysterious. You just didn't usually report all the deaths to the records of births and deaths during this early time period. And you wouldn't have had any funeral records during this time because around 1825 to 1829, we've lost all of St. Louis Cathedral's funeral records. So if there were funeral records for her daughters or funeral records for her husband, we don't have it. But shortly after that, she starts calling herself the Widow Paris. So I'm going to defer to the fact that she knew her husband was dead.
It makes a lot of sense. I actually had Sandy explain it to y'all because of that whole Haitian reference. And I know y'all tired of hearing me and seeing me talking all the time about Haiti and Creole stuff, but it's actually good to have Sandy explain that in more detail for you to get a better understanding of how obscure and how mysterious this woman actually is. Because people make up stories about her all the time. In my family, as a matter of fact, speaking of her Haitian husband, they claim that her daughters actually lived and that a lot of their descendants are actually running around. Again, we don't know. The records were destroyed. So it's very important that you talked about that. That's why I brought it up and I said, hey, Sandy, you explain that.
So Père Antoine is probably the most famous of the priests here in the city of New Orleans. He was a Capuchin monk, which made him really strict in his beliefs. As a matter of fact, when he first arrives in New Orleans, he tries to institute the Spanish Inquisition, and they kick him out. He gets Spanish. And then he comes back, and I guess he has to change part because he becomes very beloved here in the city of New Orleans. Did they have a friendship? Probably not. I mean, he oversaw her baptism, and he officiated her wedding, but that is in 1819. He dies in 1829. He's 81 years old when he kicks it. And the fact that he was maybe turning a blind eye to the Inquisition is probably a big no for me.
He kicks it, right? That's good, Cindy. You actually brought up a very interesting point, which is actually going to bring us to the cemetery. Her voodoo practices. That's another thing that y'all want to know about, right? Was she a voodoo queen? Was she not a voodoo queen? Was she in the religion? Did she practice voodoo? Again, pop on that. I don't know. Nobody knows. There's no historical record saying that this woman was in or out of voodoo. However, we do know maybe she was possibly buried in St. Louis Cemetery number 1, because we know she was actually Catholic. Now, some of you who are actually Vodouisans know that we use Roman Catholicism as a face to hide the fact that we're praying to our African spirit, but we still don't know if that's something that she was doing. Was she really good at hiding the spirit that they really thought that she was an actual Catholic and they buried her in St. Louis Cemetery number 1? In order for us to figure that thing out, we're going to head to that cemetery. So
Can I say one thing,
Of
though?
course.
We do have 2 newspaper articles of her in relation to voodoo, and only 2 newspaper articles. So from 1820, when people say she started to become a voodoo queen, to the 1870s, from 1820 to 1850s, we got nothing. There's nothing happening with her. She's not in any record. There's nothing to associate her with voodoo. That doesn't change until around 1850, when they start really persecuting voodoo here in the city of New Orleans, because we're hurtling towards the American Civil War, and race relations are disintegrating rapidly in the city. And so she is listed as a complainant in the 1850s, and she's making this complaint against the 3rd Municipality Police Force, which is basically the Marigny neighborhood today. And she's saying that they were harassing some co-religionists, that's the newspaper's word, and that they take a wooden statue that belonged to her. And now when the newspapers write this up, they write this wooden statue up as being the Virgin of the Voodoos, and then they try to like punch it up and make it as mysterious and weird as they possibly can, because they're going to say it looks like something that's a cross between a centaur and an Egyptian mummy. So, you know, it's playing into what things are like, really what white people were interested in at the time, because we didn't get out very much. And so that's basically what they're playing to their audience. And they say she can have the statue back if she pays for it. And what happens is a bunch of the women come together with the money, and it's not really known if she gets it back. And then she later comes into the picture in 1859, when she is written up in the newspaper for being summoned before a judge. And she's summoned before a judge because her neighbor over on what used to be known as Rue de Moore, then came to be known as Love Street, and then came to be known as North Rampart, because we can't pick a name. And then he's complaining that the women gathering there are fighting, that there are obscenities, that they're dancing, they're yelling. And the newspaper goes on to write orgies, which a respectable newspaper would not write about.
Guys, I'm laughing because it's so funny that Sandy brought that up. I read somewhere, and I won't say where I read this book, but there's a passage in this book, and you've read it too, along with Andrew and a bunch of our fellow coworkers. In the book, they say that we actually gather in people's front yards, and we actually have massive orgies to worship our sex spirits that live and reside in the graveyard. And that's, for those of you who are familiar with our traditions, they're referring to the Gede, which are actually Haitian spirits. We don't have orgies with our family members, so you guys know, but it's funny you brought that up. I just want to let y'all know why I was laughing. It's so ridiculous to me.
Well, that's Robert Talent.
Oh,
he's the one that wrote that up.
Like that.
Yeah, Robert Talent's the one that started the whole concept of people in voodoo ceremonies engaging in orgies, having interracial orgies, which would have been a big deal back then. Drinking blood, eating live chickens, eating dead cats. That's my favorite. I can't imagine that's palatable, but
no, because I mean, I'm born and raised in these traditions. I've never had a dead cat to eat.
So I can't ask you if it tastes like chicken.
I mean, the only chicken I had had been fried beef. I mean, that's it. And to clarify for my Haitians watching this, especially my mambos and my Ungans Asogways, they know that our Gede spirits, they're the ones that are over the sex and all that kind of stuff. They don't come down and actually have sex with people. They just represent that side for health reasons.
Well, I'm sad.
That's it. We don't have massive orgies with spirits or each other or other people.
Well, then I'm done.
Unless we're a lot of people think that we actually pray to her in voodoo, in West African, Haitian, and Louisiana voodoo. Believe it or not, we don't. She's not a Loa, she's not an Orisha. And what does that mean? That means that she's not an elevated spirit in our traditions. Most times when you hear people talking about her that way, it is something that's just dear to their hearts and they decide to do. But in the actual religion itself, we don't have her as a spirit. She doesn't come down in possession. She doesn't actually interact with people. People who are born and raised in New Orleans choose to pray to her, and they choose to keep her spirit alive in that fashion.
Well, I think people believing that is, again, a part of the Hollywood perception, not only of Marie Laveau, but also of the religion of voodoo. Because Hollywood just throws it all in there. They throw like black magic in, they throw European witchcraft, they throw hoodoo, all in under the header of voodoo, and they have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And most people don't know what an Orisha is, much less what a Loa is.
Or the difference between the two.
So absolutely. And then when people leave offerings, they just assume that she's been elevated.
It's the same way in a lot of traditions that you see, even outside of voodoo, where people would actually set up an altar to a deceased loved one, someone in their family who they're close to, who just passed away recently, and they leave their favorite foods, and they leave their favorite items that they had when they were alive, and this person knew them. That's the same thing that's actually happening here. One of the most cultural significant things that people need to understand, especially talking about Mamselle Marie Laveau, is back in the 1700s and 1800s, dealing with people of color, they kept up with people's lineages back then. In a nutshell, they kept up with how black you were. Mamselle Marie Laveau is said to be 3/4 white and 1/4 black. They gave her a funny name called a quadroon. So with that in mind, her cultural status in the French Quarter was pretty low. Back then, they believed if you had one drop of West African blood in you, or just black blood in you in general, which means non-European, you were considered to be 100% black. On that note, there's a rumor, story, history, whatever you want to call it, depending on the family you come from, of her being a hairdresser. Now, the story goes that Mamselle Marie Laveau did the hair of a lot of people of high status in the French Quarter, specifically, of course, women of high status. And while doing their hair, they never paid her any mind, simply because she was a black woman doing hair. Who's going to believe her? She says anything anyway. She's no better than the furniture, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the story goes that with this information she was gathering from these women through time, she would blackmail them in the future.
She probably rarely wasn't a hairdresser. Like, that comes into print because of George Washington Cable. And he puts it in a novel in what, 1880, I think. And in the novel, he has a character that's a voodoo priestess, and he has her being a hairdresser. And most people just assumed he was modeling it after Marie Laveau. But there's no evidence for that. And then in 1895, there's a newspaper article in the Times Democrat where they say absolutely, though they can't support this as fact, that he did model it after Marie Laveau and that she was a hairdresser. But in all of the city directories, they list her occupation as none. The 1850 census, they list her occupation as none. So I'm just going to say, if the girl was not a hairdresser, she's probably like, damn, y'all, if I get one more hair tie, can a girl get a damn drink?
For real, if anything, you leave her tobacco and you do leave her alcohol, because everybody did do that back then. They all drunk or drank, as y'all say in English. And also, they also all smoked. And actually, back then, if I'm not mistaken, they believe that smoking was so healthy that they even had pregnant women smoking a lot of tobacco back then. So, yes, people believe what they believe, and they leave the offerings. That doesn't mean that actually happened, that she actually was those things. So, again, just a reference. Her house is here. It used to be at 1022 St. Anne. And now, Ann said nothing about her actually being a hairdresser. Girl, you something else. So we're going to go to the cemetery, and we're going to talk about her.
I just wanted to throw in there. Oh, somebody left her some money.
They always leave money. The
That's
homeless
good.
people come steal it, y'all.
I know
But
they do.
let's
They
take
steal
a walk.
Okay, I wanted to add about the homes. They're pretty much what are called shotgun houses. You open the front door, and if you had a shotgun and you pulled the trigger, the bullet would come out the back door. They just go straight back. You walk from room into room into room. Where the bathroom is, there's a small hallway, so that's the only room that actually has a hall outside of it. Everything else
Wow.
is straight to back. So a lot of the homes, the old homes, like the one my original home until I was 6, was actually a double shotgun, where
Oh,
it was
really?
the width of, say, a normal house, but yet it was a straight shot from the front door through the back door.
Now, did
Wow,
they turn
I
a
didn't
lot
know
of
that.
those kind into the duplexes now, like in New Orleans? Like they'll take the double shotgun houses, sometimes you'll see, and make them into 2 different dwelling places now.
They'd have to remodel extensively and add rooms to it to make it no longer shotgun. Mine,
Right.
the house I lived in, was an actual double shotgun. It was
Kind of
originally
like
built
it's
that way in the 40s.
like yours is the kind that had just like if you open the front door, it's a hall, and then there's rooms off each side, and then there's a back door that is at the end of the hall.
So it
Is
just
that
goes
No,
straight through,
there's no hall. There's
front
no
to
hall
back.
through the house. When you opened our front door,
Mhm.
you were directly in the living room.
Mhm.
Then there were pocket doors, sliding doors, leading to my parents' bedroom. Then there was this little bitty short hallway that was only the length of the bathroom, because that door was on the left. Then the next room was my room, full room. The next room was the kitchen. The next room was laundry room, and then the back door. So there
I
is no
got you.
hall with rooms off to the side. You go literally from room into room into room. So there's really no privacy from
Oh,
room
I
to
got
room.
you.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's no way to get around a room other than the
You
bathroom.
have to go through all the rooms to
You
get
have to
to
go through
whatever.
all
Yeah.
the rooms. Yes. Yes.
Wow, that ever weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't remember this, but my brother told me that our side was a little wider. It was like an L shape. It had another room off the laundry room, which was the dining room. I don't remember that room at all. I remember just going room to room straight back and out the back door into the backyard. But I thought I'd add that, since that's another quirk that we have that isn't that
Now,
common elsewhere.
Yeah.
how close to St. Anne Street did you live?
I lived out by the lakefront. If you know where 610 is, the interstate, the house I lived in until I was 6 was off of Elysian Fields, and the government bought, not that my parents had a choice, bought the house
Right.
in
Aw.
1966, and we moved so they could build 610. So I was not technically near the quarter, and then I grew up near the lakefront, near Lake Pontchartrain, where they were
Huh.
discussing, about 8 blocks from Lake Pontchartrain,
Okay.
and went to high school on Bayou St. John. So
Wow.
it's all,
So you
So
were
I was away.
close. I mean,
Yeah,
that's not too far.
well, I lived a block off of the bus route,
Uh-huh.
and it would be about a 20-minute bus ride, including stops, from my bus stop to the French Quarter.
Oh, wow.
And we went down every Wednesday to Canal Street, the main street,
Yeah.
to go shopping every Wednesday. My mom and I hopped the bus, and we drove up Bourbon Street. We went to Cafe Du Monde across from St. Louis Cathedral. We did all those things all the time.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
that's crazy. Did this is just my opinion, but did you think it smelled like a mixture, and it could be just because it's so far below sea level and it's like so humid, especially in August. You know how it is. Like you could take a shower and walk outside and need to take another shower again immediately. But did you find like it was to me the smell of like beer, vomit, and urine?
Oh,
I
that's
don't
Bourbon
know, like
Street.
stale beer. Yeah.
That is
That's why I
Bourbon.
was crying to get my
Street.
mom out, me away from there. And a man ran out with like pasties on and a thong, and it was a skinny man with high heels on. And that man ran out, and that was like the last straw. That's when I busted out crying, and I was
No, I'm
like,
looking
I
forward to
gotta
the beer, piss, and vomit.
In 1999, I had some friends come in for a dog show, and they all, of course, wanted to go to the French Quarter. They wanted to go to Bourbon Street, and I said, I will take you, but I'm dropping you off, and call me 30 minutes before you want me to pick you up. Well, why aren't you going to come hang out with us? Absolutely not. You can go to Pat O'Brien's and buy a hurricane for me, because I don't need to go smell, like you said, piss, vomit.
Ew,
I mean, it stinks on Bourbon Street.
that's
But,
crazy.
you know, like you walk into my church and you can smell the scent of God. You can smell the Spirit of God because of the
Yes.
incense in the walls from
Yeah.
Mass. You can smell that. You can close your eyes and walk in my church and you'll know exactly where you are.
Right.
You can
My
be
God.
blindfolded and driven all around town and dropped off on Bourbon Street. And
You're right.
without it, even with the earplugs, you know exactly where you are because it stinks to high heaven.
And listen, I'll never
I
forget
know
it as
that.
long as I live. I was like 10 the last time I went, I think, and I'm 52 now, and I will never ever forget that smell. And
Ugh.
I live close to Charleston, South Carolina, which is to me reminds me a little bit of
Mhm.
New Orleans, and it's a very similar smell, but it's not quite as pungent. I think maybe
No,
because
no.
it's not quite as much below sea level, but I think that has a lot to do with it. It's like gets trapped or something down in that. I don't know.
I was in the experts live stream last night, and he had a camera, one of the um earth cams on Bourbon Street, and I was cracking up.
Oh,
I had
I
him in
missed it.
hysterics because at one point I said tourist, because I could tell who was the tourist and who was local
Who lives there and who was
just
coming in.
by looking at them.
Mhm.
The way they act.
They were cracking up at some of my comments because, obviously I'm from there. I lived my
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
42 years of my life there. I
I'm
know
surprised
it.
they didn't offer you to come up on panel.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised too, although I'm not a mod.
Yeah.
So, um,
That's why I invited Sayla up. She said she just did this whole thing a while ago. So she's,
Yeah,
it's fresh in
several
her mind.
years
Like,
back.
well, might as well come up.
of course, he says, we need you to go party with down there because, when I say Pass Me Out was a fun place, which is where the camera was, it is a fun place. But he's like,
Yeah.
I just
It
cracked
just
up.
stinks.
I had so much fun in that live stream last night. And I'm sitting there and I'm laughing at them because of their reactions, because of course they're not from there. They have no clue
Yeah.
what
What's
Mardi
going
Gras is all
on?
about and how wild and crazy it gets. And the video last night was very, very tame for New Orleans and for Bourbon Street. I was actually surprised, but I did. I always have a blast in his live streams. And
Which one were you watching?
Yeah, me
'Cause
too.
I was watching one, but I don't know which one it was. What were you on?
the expert,
Okay. I just happened to see it on there, and I just clicked on there for about 10 minutes. I don't know if it was that one or not, but I was watching it, and I thought it was tame too, actually. I was
it
like,
was.
that's pretty
It was.
for
But then
Mardi
again,
Gras.
I think people are learning more and more, and word is spreading. It's not safe down there. It's not safe
Not.
during the day to be on Bourbon Street or anywhere in the quarter.
A lot of people have moved
Wow.
away.
A lot of crime, and after dark, it's even worse. You couldn't pay me
That's
to go down there
scary.
after dark now. Um,
Yeah, I've heard people
and
say
I think that
even
has a lot to
live
do
there.
with it. The crowd wasn't as thick. I mean, I remember when 1977, my drinking age was 18 when I was in 1978 when I was 18. And you could go down to Bourbon Street on a Saturday night and they had more people milling around back then on a regular Saturday night than they did last night.
Wow.
So,
Wonder why.
Yeah, see, that's around the time I went. I was like 8. I was born in 70, so it'd been 78. Because I went
think
from like 76 to 78, 79.
yeah. So it's just not safe. And you can't deny the fact that the crime rate is skyrocketed. They had 5 people poo-pooed or whatever you call it, have to say on YouTube at one of the parades. One was a little girl who's about 5 years old.
Oh,
You know, it's
what?
just,
Oh
yeah,
my God.
yes.
Okay,
So,
Danita.
you know, I mean, it's a great city. You know, I went down for a party and I went from the hotel in Metairie to my nephew's house, back to the hotel. I didn't drive around. Uh, I don't feel the same way as I did. But anywho,
Yeah.
I can start this back up.
Alcohol.
We're gonna take a walk to the cemetery. Come on, let's go.
Alcohol is
Reminds me of
involved in
Ellen.
everything in
Sandy,
New
we
Orleans.
just actually crossed over Basin Street and we're heading to St. Louis Cemetery number 1, y'all. And this
Bye,
is supposedly
Dragon.
where Mademoiselle Marie Laveau is actually buried. Now, let's talk about culture first before we talk about what we actually know. Everyone wants to believe that Mademoiselle Marie Laveau was an authentic voodoo queen. That being said, she has a tomb here in St. Louis Cemetery number 1 where she's supposedly buried. Now, what I can tell you as a voodoo priest that, well, let's just do this as a question. Why would an authentic voodoo queen be buried in a Catholic cemetery? The answer, she wouldn't be. She would tell the public, bury me here in this Catholic cemetery. Then tell her family, bury me behind this bayou, under this tree, by this piece of land, under this salt water, put this marker there so the family know where I am. So, and also another thing, a lot of people believe that even though she may or may not have been a voodoo queen, they can still ask her for favors, i.e. us going to the house and seeing people leaving the offerings of the hair ties, the tobacco, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sandy, one of my favorite things that people believe about Mademoiselle Marie Laveau, especially the people that believe that she's an actual voodoo queen, is that you can go into St. Louis Cemetery number 1 where she's supposedly buried, and if you have a favor, if you want her to do something for you, you walk up to the tomb. You're supposed to walk backwards to the tomb. You turn around, you take a marker or some chalk or something, you write 3 X's on the tomb, right? And then you turn around and circle 3 times. And then you spit in, especially inside of a cemetery. And then she will supposedly grant you a favor. Once you tell her your favor, you leave an offering of a bunch of handful of pennies, and then you walk backwards out of the cemetery. Pennies.
We haven't raised that up for inflation.
We have not raised that since inflation. Now that's what people believe.
I'm sorry.
I know, right? Y'all, as a voodoo priest, I can tell you in Louisiana plantation voodoo, in Haitian voodoo, in West African voodoo, we do not do that. You do not defecate someone's tomb. I may have said that word wrong, but it actually fits the situation. It seems like when you do something like that, you write 3 X's on somebody's tomb. Yeah, you might as well take a crap on that tomb if you're doing something like that. Like seriously, we don't do that. We don't do that at all. Now, what do we actually know about what happened to her when she died? Where did they bury her? What is actually written on paper?
Okay, so what we know as far as archival records are concerned is that in June of 1881, she passes away. And it's listed, speaking, God help me,
Oh, God.
speaking of defecation, no joke, her death is listed as, the cause is as diarrhea.
Oh my goodness.
What?
I didn't know that either. I didn't know that either.
So that was a perfect segue into that.
Diarrhea.
Most likely she was suffering from cholera or dysentery, which was
Oh.
endemic to the city of New Orleans. And during this time period in June of 1881, there's a heat wave. So if she couldn't stay hydrated, she would have died fairly quickly. So we know that afterwards, there's a huge turnout for her funeral, that both the white elite and the black population turn out for the funeral, and they follow the procession here to St. Louis number 1. And what the cemetery records state is that she's interred within the Widow Perry tomb, which, by the way, is where Christophe Glapion is located, which we haven't talked about yet. So she had him interred within the Widow Perry tomb as well. And that she's listed, her daughter lists her as Dame Christophe Glapion, even though they weren't married. I think during this time period, she's trying to make her sound more respectable, and that she's making her birth sort of legitimate.
I'm interested in something. You mentioned one of her husbands who was actually Haitian earlier. There's another husband in the picture who is actually listed here. Or was he a husband?
Okay, so you're talking about Christophe Glapion.
Yes, I am.
And so a lot of people think that Christophe Glapion was a free man of color, but we actually know a lot about his lineage, and he was born of white parents. So they could not have been legally married. You could legally cohabitate outside of your perceived race at this time, but you could not marry outside of your perceived race at that time. Was she what was known as a placé? Probably not. She would have been a very unusual placé if she were. They were usually placed in a white man's home when they were 12 or in their teens. So she was a woman in her mid-20s who had already given birth to 2 children. But she lives with Christophe Glapion sometime after Jacques Perry dies, and she will stay with him until he dies in 1855. So they're together for like 30 years they're together. So they had to have some sort of emotional attachment. And then when he dies, she inters him here within the Widow Perry's tomb. By the way, you know, I don't know if he was a nice man or not, but God bless his little heart, he left her in financial ruin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that house that she was living in on St. Anne Street has to be auctioned after he dies. He's in to pay for his debts. And luckily for her, a family friend by the name of Crocker, I believe, steps in, buys the house, and lets her live there for the rest of her life.
Wow. Now that's something that even I didn't know.
I never
By
knew
the way,
that.
and I have to say this because we've been joking, we've been laughing, we've been talking about the historical facts. The one thing that we don't want to do and actually show you guys is a form of disrespect towards Mademoiselle Marie Laveau and what she actually means to the families who actually believe that she did all those things that they said here in the city of New Orleans. My family included. We're telling y'all and why it's so important that some people actually have access to where we believe that she's buried here in the city of New Orleans. I'm giving you that disclaimer right now because we were joking. We're having fun and we want y'all to have fun with us. But do understand, she is a major key player, not just to me, not just to Sandy, but also for a lot of other tour guides in this city. So please understand that. She's important to me as a voodoo priest and also my family, who's also in voodoo as well. And also to Sandy and everybody else. Sandy, oh my God, I gotta have you tell everybody about this. The gate's locked, by the way, everybody. We can't go up in there and show y'all where she buried at.
Probably because people spitting in
Oh,
there.
COVID. Oh Lord, COVID. Of course for COVID. Excuse me, of course for the pandemic that's happening right now. Or as I like to call it, the pandemonium. But something happened a few years back with her tomb that actually tell us it involves the color Pepto-Bismol pink.
Yeah, so I guess there was a gentleman who was mentally ill that had an episode, and he painted the entire Widow Prairie tomb Pepto-Bismol pink. The
It's
problem
cute,
was,
though.
look, I don't think he meant any harm by it.
It
I think he
was.
thought he was doing something good by
Well,
doing
it's
it.
not
And he painted
pretty.
it with latex paint, which means that the brick can't breathe, and it damaged the tomb. So the Archdiocese
Oh.
had to meet up with Save Our Cemeteries and restore the tomb, and it cost a lot of money to restore that tomb.
Wow.
And that's when the Archdiocese said, no. It used to be you could just wander into the cemetery at your leisure during the cemetery hours, and then they shut it down. You couldn't go in unless you were with a guide.
That's another reason why I said what I said earlier about, harming a family's tomb. Whether you're in voodoo, whether you're not in voodoo, whether you're a historian, whether you're just a native in New Orleans,
I do
no
agree
one
with
goes
that.
to someone else's tomb that they're not related to and does those things unless you are one, a bad person, or two, crazy, or three, both. That's very important. We don't do that whether you're in or out of the religion at all. And paint someone's tomb Pepto-Bismol.
I'm
a
out of
Christian,
whatever
I agree
reason
with
it is.
that.
Come on now, really.
And it is
I
worth
love
mentioning that
him.
she does still have family here that visits that tomb. It's not just a tourist attraction.
That's very important. Think about her family. Think
Well,
about
now
her
thanks to that
descendants. Think about
Pepto-Bismol,
all the
though. I
people
mean,
here inside the
nobody
cemetery.
can
Like,
go
it's
in
very
there.
important that you guys know that. Do not come here expecting to walk into the cemetery, writing 3 X's or painting anything, any color.
And
Don't
don't
do that.
expect a jazz funeral. We don't kill people for that. I'm serious.
Oh,
People
God.
want a jazz funeral.
Oh, Jesus.
I would
true
want
story.
a jazz funeral.
Sandy, that segues us. That's going to actually take us, Sandy, somewhere else. I'm so sorry, y'all.
Are there any questions
Is
about
there still
jazz
such a
funeral?
thing? Yeah,
No,
is
and
there
the-
still is there such a thing as a jazz funeral? Like, is that
Yes,
real?
you can still
Yeah.
have one. On the way to the cemetery, they play dirges. They play extremely sad, slow, mourning songs. And then after the funeral, when they leave, is when they play jazzy, upbeat, happy,
Yeah.
dance,
Oh,
second row
good.
music.
So it's kind of like a mourning going in, but when you come out, it's kind of like a celebration of their life, kind of
Correct.
like celebrating.
Good.
Correct.
That sounds
And
actually really cool.
And at weddings, quite often they'll do second line dances at the wedding, which is where
Yeah.
people hold umbrellas and handkerchiefs and they dance around the jazz music in a circle going around. I'm like, no, I'll sit this out.
I would do it. I would be like, oh, let's go.
Or if the church and the reception hall are very close together, they'll
Mhm.
walk up the streets and do the second line, which is basically the post-funeral celebration in a way. Very similar. So, yes, different culture.
That's even
Yeah,
spread
I
into
love
some
it, though.
other places in the South, because I know that in Atlanta, they'll do some jazz funerals in Atlanta. And also,
Oh, wow.
I have seen that in Charleston. So it could just be some of the traditions maybe brought over. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be.
But there,
Sandy, that's actually
New-
going to take us.
I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say New Orleans and Charleston just remind me so much of each other. It is like unreal almost. It's just like one smaller, like
Probably
but-
going to
Yeah.
St. Charles Avenue is so quaint with all the old homes. That would be more like Charleston, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all the old houses, I think. I love those old houses.
Somewhere else. There's an area, one of my favorite spots here in the city of New Orleans that me and my best friend even walk. Bayou St. John. That area itself is very important, culturally, history-wise, and yes, Marie Laveau and her family is actually involved in the area there. So we're going to meet you guys there, so we'll see you shortly. Okay, let's go. Y'all, here we are. We're at Bayou St. John, and I actually love this area. This area is very important to me because ceremonies dealing with the religion itself is actually still done here, voodoo that I mean. And we talked a lot about Marie Laveau. We talked about who she was, what's on record, what's not on record, and why she's important to me and also to Sandy. But there's some elements about her and why we still keep her stories alive, where they come from, what happened. It involves around a subject that we kind of spoke about, but we didn't really go into detail about. Racism. I know that's a very, very hard word to talk about, a very hard subject, and it's a trigger word for a lot of people, but that's what happened. Would you like to elaborate more about it?
Sure. I think when you look at where a historical figure's legend comes from, you have to look at the historical context of when the legend starts to solidify. And for Marie Laveau, it really begins to solidify during Reconstruction and post-Reconstruction, pardon me. And post-Reconstruction is when you're going to see a really racist backlash happening in the city of New Orleans. And that is when voodoo is really going to start to be demonized. That's when you're going to see people referring to the ceremonies as bestial, as superstitious nonsense, as originating out of the jungles of Africa, as being orgiastic, devil worshipping, etc. And so what's going to happen with Marie Laveau is that her legend is going to sort of form around two camps, as it were, and they're two diametrically opposed camps. So there's one camp that calls her the Voodoo Queen, and that's a camp that's going to overly sexualize her, that's going to demonize her, that's going to say she leads the superstitions. Then there's a whole other camp that's going to say she was an herbal healer, she was never a Voodoo Queen, she was always a devout Catholic, and never the two shall meet, because you could not reconcile, these early writers could not reconcile the fact that she could be a Voodoo Queen and still be good. You had to redeem her somehow. So even the later, like late 1800s articles that are written about her, some of those journalists will come out and say things like, no, I talked to her when she was elderly, when she was aged and infirmed, and she said she had denounced this religion of voodoo and that she wholeheartedly would embrace Catholicism. Even her daughter, their only surviving daughter at the time of her death, was Marie Philomene, or Philomene, I never know how to say that. But at any rate, she's going to say that her mother denounced voodoo, that she was never connected to this religion, and that she was always a devout Catholic, trying to, again, I think, make some distance between a religion that is persecuted. And then, honestly, you keep going. I mean, you come into the modern era, you get to 1915, going into 1930s, and that's when the United States Marine Corps occupies Haiti. And anyone could write a dime store novel during this time. And so they're hearing stories, but they're not investigating these stories. And they're writing about what, honest to God, you guys, if you're writing a dime store novel, it's the same people that you're marketing 50 Shades of Grey to. It's bored, unfulfilled housewives. And what do bored, unfulfilled white housewives want? Salacious things, the throbbing of the drums, the fear that white flesh could fall into dark hands.
That's so important to me. And it's very important to me that to hear you say that as a person of color, but also as someone born and raised in these traditions. And for the public who are actually watching this to know, like, hey, this is what happened. I love you so much, Sandy. And I appreciate the fact that you actually took this journey with me to talk about this wonderful woman, who she was, who she wasn't, to clear up a lot of things. If y'all enjoyed this tour, do me a favor. Sandy's tip information will be at the bottom. Please.
Up.
Sandy,
Right before
she had the bridge painted blue for me because of my obsession. I won't touch it because we can't deal with wet paint. Speaking of the bridge, speaking of Bayou St. John, it's very significant today. If you want to feel a piece of Mademoiselle Marie Laveau, whether you believe she was a Voodoo Queen, whether you believe she wasn't a Voodoo Queen, whatever you want to believe about her, this is the place to come to, Bayou St. John. Not just the Voodoo community, but the Ifa community, the Palo community, some of the Santeria people. They come out here and they serve the spirit. They believe that Bayou St. John is actually where water, fresh water and salt water actually meet, where two spirits who we actually pray to, Yemeya and Oshun, depending on what lineage you come from, you may have a different name for these two deities, meet here. And that the city of New Orleans is an embodiment of Mademoiselle Marie Laveau, so she meets them here too. That's very important. I want to add, Sandy, everybody knows who I am, because y'all know I'm a character, baby. I don't play. And everybody knows Andrew, because everybody's in love with Andrew. I am too, just so y'all know. But they're just now getting introduced to you. So everybody knows I do the Voodoo tour. That's my specialty. My name is on my tour, baby. But what you don't know is that Sandy does the Voodoo tour as well. And let me tell you, her perspective and how she approaches these subjects is very unique to her. You have to take a tour with her. But she also does some other tours with our company as well, if you'd like to elaborate.
What I find interesting is that they weren't near Pontchartrain Beach, well, Lake Pontchartrain portion of Bayou St. John. They were further away from the lake, and all of her
history.
See, I'm stuttering through. The ceremonies and all were held closer to the lake, so I was actually surprised that this part wasn't filmed closer there. But
that guy's funny.
I love that guy. I think he's so funny.
He is hilarious.
He is funny. I ain't gonna touch wet paint. It's funny.
I've watched a couple of his videos. He's really funny.
He was
There's another one
about
of him making gree and getting into
water. The water where the water meets the salt water and the fresh water meet, you know. And I find that interesting. I have a friend that lives in Africa, but they do like actually worship some of the people who do voodoo. No, I'm talking, I know there's different types, but I'm saying like in this particular area of Uganda, like people do worship actually like water spirits and stuff like that. And they marry them and they like call them their husbands, and they like leave them, you know, like sweet treats and fruits and things like that. And I know that like in the hoodoo, isn't that more Haitian?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. It's a little bit different. And then you have wait a minute, my mind went break. Santeria, which is kind of like a mixture of like voodoo and Catholicism of some sort, which is a lot down in Miami, which comes from like Cuba area, right? Isn't that right?
Yes. Santeria is
Okay.
more Latino.
You're right.
Voodoo is more African, and it's a
Right.
mixture of worshiping and, well, speaking to the spirits of your ancestors, invoking them, and Catholicism. Where
Right. That's what I thought.
Santeria is similar with Catholicism, only from different origins.
Right. That's what I thought. Like, because I knew in Miami, because after we went to the pageant there in Louisiana all those years, then it switched to Miami. So it was kind of like I got a very interesting, viewpoint of a bunch of
Yeah.
different sides of things, and I saw kind of a similarity of that as well because of the Cuban and the South American kind of I don't know. Like if you go actually to Miami, even back in the 80s, like you couldn't go into Wendy's and order hardly unless you knew Spanish, like back then.
Oh, wow.
Because yeah, it was so so many Cubans and stuff like in that area. And we stayed in the Hyatt, like in the main, off Biscayne Bay right there. And literally we walked down to Wendy's and like we had to have help to order. And that was
Yeah.
like I said, that was like in 88, 1987, around in that area. So I find that interesting because I've watched a lot of things on the Santeria, and you can just see a common theme going through several of these type of, I guess, religions or voodoo, hoodoo, Santeria, all that. What do you think about that? What he's saying though about her not being involved with that church and not. I mean, what do you think personally, Karen? Since you came from there,
Yeah.
I have mixed thoughts about it since so much is oral tradition, and of course that can be a lot exaggerated to the nth
Yeah.
degree. I didn't play the portion of the video where they discussed the priest. The priest that she knew actually wanted to bring the Inquisition to New Orleans, and the Archdiocese put a stop to that. And I can't see him turning a blind eye if it was that well known that she was a voodoo priestess, that she would be allowed to minister to the sick through the church, that she would be allowed to attend mass on a daily basis, that she would be buried in St. Louis number 1, which is a Catholic cemetery. Part of me just says, well,
Yeah.
I can't see all that happening. That maybe she was more of an herbalist, herbal medicine,
Yeah.
midwife, possibly
Like,
hairdresser, possibly not. Who knows? I think some of it is just urban legend that has grown over the years. I mean, the fact that he said that she's not that important in the voodoo culture of New Orleans at this time, I think that says a lot more than the other
anything
history.
else.
Yeah, because he would know. I mean, obviously, as a voodoo
Right.
priest who grew up in the religion, he would know how she's revered, how she's treated, what she's thought of. I mean, he's not taking
Well, if she
anything.
was feared, that's the thing too. If it really was voodoo and she was dangerous and stuff, and she was feared, wouldn't she be run off or unalived?
Uh,
If she was that bad
No,
of a,
because
you know what I
people would
mean?
be too afraid. Even
Retribution.
the people the white people would have been afraid of her
Right.
because they were so terrified of black magic and
Well,
voodoo.
Gotcha.
They
And
either
another thing is, I
supported it.
feel like another thing, don't you think, because I know this happens a lot even in nowadays, these days, like a lot of people who are even Satanists, sometimes, now I'm not saying she's a Satanist, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying this is what happens sometimes, or Luciferian. Like people will like go to a church, especially in the past when it was so taboo, and they would go to a church to show one side, you know what I'm saying? But they really would practice other things in private, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that priest could have even been, she could have had blackmail on that priest knowing something that he could have been involved in that could have destroyed
Yeah.
his career. So he had to turn a blind eye. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know, I guess, because we weren't there. But
No.
there's so many ifs that could be. I feel like there has to be something to it, though.
Like a mix of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too.
Yeah, that's probably the only thing that really makes sense to me. Yeah.
And that is if she's
actually.
really buried there. I mean, even he in the video, if you caught it, he even made it a question as to whether or not her body was actually placed
Actually
there.
there. Mhm.
Yes, that it
Yeah.
could be a name only,
An
that her
empty- it
body
could
was
be an
actually
empty
buried
tomb.
on Bayou St. John. I mean, back then you could go dig a grave anywhere. So she could
Drop
very
somebody
well
in,
be
yeah.
graduated buried where my high school was built, you know, over her.
Yeah.
We'll never really know. I think she's an interesting character, an interesting, wonderful
Yes.
person of history
Mhm.
who did a lot of good. I never really hear a lot of stories of horrible things she did, you know, where she put
Me neither.
spells on mean spells. You know, she didn't do black magic's kind of spells, but yet if she was a hairdresser and she found out from Madam So-and-so A
Right.
that this was going on with an issue with B, then when
Yeah.
B would actually come see her, she could say, I'm sensing that you're having this, say, illness, this physical problem. And she
Mhm.
could give her herbal
Money.
medicine and say, you know, I think the spirit, they're telling me that this is going to help you. Knowing full good and well that this is what the woman's problem was, and that what she was given was going to help.
Beforehand, right.
Right.
Mm.
Well, I do know as a hairdresser myself, people do come in and tell everything. I mean, if you live in
Yeah.
a, you know,
I
local
believe it.
community,
Your whole
it's
life
like you
story,
know
right?
everything about everybody.
Yeah, I'm
So,
like that when I get my hair cut. I just
yeah. It's like they
I
get in
was
the
like,
chair
what else
and
are
it's
you
like they
gonna
get
do?
syrup or something and it just all spills out. Oh,
Yeah, I tell them my whole
this
life
has her
story, where
singing.
I live, where I grew up. Oh my God, how many big kids? Oh yeah, just yap.
Yeah.
I've been seeing the same man for over 20 years.
Oh wow,
So,
really?
yes.
That's good.
I've
Hey,
been with the
Patty.
same one for 31. He's over there
Yeah.
sleeping now. Snoring.
He's a trip. He has always been extremely handsome. And
Mhm.
his friends in high school couldn't understand why a straight guy wanted to go to school to be a hairdresser. And he said, where do the single women go? I don't want to go
That's
to
right.
I don't want to meet one in a bar. That's not the type of female I want in my
Yeah,
life.
that's a really good
He
idea.
says,
Right.
so where else am I going to meet a really nice bunch of, single women?
Think of
And
J.C. Ring with Sharon
he's
Tate. You
great.
know, he was a handsome fella and he loved Sharon Tate. He was still in love with her,
Yeah.
you know, when she passed away. So, I mean, he was a straight guy. I mean, no, we don't know in Hollywood what he might have done,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
don't know.
but
I always thought he was gay, but I don't know. I do believe he was in love with Sharon. I absolutely do.
Mhm. I
Like
do
he
too.
just couldn't help but love her. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's.
Maybe he was,
I,
maybe he wasn't.
I know we don't know about that, but he was handsome, and I do know that
Yeah.
there are straight guys that definitely go. My friend is married to one, and I used to work with him, and I dated him in high school. I know, I can attest to the fact he's straight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and he makes a killing because all the women, even though he's older now, you know, all the women want to go to him, and he just, you know, they love to go and talk to Jay. You
He's
know,
probably got a huge fan base.
yeah, he does. And everybody that went to high school with us, you know, like they still grew up in the same area in the South. You know, it's just like everybody goes to this one. It's like, what did y'all see? Still Magnolias, and
Years ago.
not Nell had that. What's her name? Dolly Parton had a, you know, like Truvies. That's what it was called. The hair salon on the back of her house, and everybody in town came there. And Weezer, I don't know if y'all didn't see it, then y'all don't know, but that was a funny story. It's kind of like that, you know, but it's
Oh,
bigger,
okay.
you know.
Mhm. Gossip Central, where men go to
Yeah,
bars and talk to their bartender and gossip with the bartender.
and
Ladies
women
go
go
get
to
their
hair
hair done.
salon. That's right.
Oh yeah. Give me a drink of anything and I don't shut the hell up. It's
Well,
bad.
that's what they do. Now they give you champagne or wine at the hair salon, so then that really
Yeah.
loosens you up to get the stuff
Oh, it
out of you.
does. Just one
Yeah,
glass because I'm not a regular drinker.
right. So they'll loosen you up and get that, get the good gossip out somehow. So I think Marie Laveau was a little bit of, you know what I'm saying? I think she did have a little bit of knowledge through the grapevine, I guess. But I do think she
Yeah.
did have some natural abilities. And I think she just kind of mixed them a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, me too.
And the
I
rest
think
is
she
it.
was a good person and she helped a lot, but I also think that you don't mess with her because she probably could do something.
Yeah, I think she could have took care of you if she wanted to, you know?
Like the peppers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Whew. And she got him off or whatever from what he did.
Yeah.
But still, the fact that she could even hold them peppers like that in her mouth.
I don't know how.
Whew. And they made her
That's
look a little more
insane.
evil on Coven, on the American Horror Story. They made her look a lot more ruthless and
Yeah.
probably more evil than she was. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's those voodoo dolls. Ever since, I don't know, ever since I even like saw or heard of one or whatever. I don't even know where I heard it from, but I was young. And that's all I think of is this doll that was made by somebody with hair in it. And then they'd stick pins in it. Like,
yeah.
that's all I really knew. And I thought, oh, that's like taboo. That's crazy. That's insane.
So if you think about it, like if you think about voodoo dolls and stuff like that, how is that anything good? Because you're intending harm for somebody, or you wouldn't be poking pins in them. And,
Right?
so you have to look at it that way. Also,
Yeah.
I mean, common sense will tell you that's not good to do.
Yeah. And that's why I always thought when it comes to voodoo and stuff, it's like, I'm staying
Yeah, I
away from
stay away
that. I
from
don't need
that.
to know
Yeah.
anything about that shit. Nope, I'm good. Because that's all I think about is voodoo dolls and stuff. And I don't want to piss one of them people off because
No.
they'll make one of me and start breaking my arms or something. Or I've never met a voodoo priestess or anything like that. I didn't even know where to look or what. Yeah, like I came into the subject with no knowledge of anything, which is pretty good. Then I could make my own decision. Wasn't
Yeah.
biased or anything.
I think when her daughter came along and took over after her death, I think the daughter brought
Yeah.
more darkness to it than what she did.
Yeah,
She
I
was
agree.
Yeah, I
more,
agree. Because when
I think she
we
was
were
really
watching
into
that and we
it.
were listening to that, I didn't even know there was a daughter that took over until I watched that, and that makes more sense. She took it to a darker place, I'm
To a
assuming. From what?
dark
Yeah.
place.
And
And
that's what, like, yes, there was Marie Laveau, but her daughter was Marie Laveau. So every time we hear that
right.
name,
And
it's
that might
either
be
the
what
mom or
carried
the
on.
daughter.
Right.
Yeah.
The actual tradition of the young daughter Marie Laveau. And I find it weird
Yeah.
that Marie Laveau had so many children and only a few lived. There's
I
something
was
with
gonna
that.
say that too.
That's very
She only had
odd to
one.
me.
It is. It
I mean, I
is.
understand back there they didn't have as good, maybe, care and all that stuff, but that is still a lot of early
She had
deaths.
what, 7 children?
No, she had like 15.
Holy shit.
but only about
Okay, that's
7
insane
of them
then.
survived. Yes.
Right. So don't you think there's something weird with that? I think
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
something
know
wrong
what.
there.
Yeah. And her being only a third, well, did he say
She's
possibly?
one quarter front, one
Right.
quarter African. Yeah. So she was a quadroon.
Right. And I guess in the area I live in, we call that red bone or whatever. Like that's just something that, like, even the black people, you know what I'm saying? They call it that. And I'm not sure. I don't know why. I guess it has to do with something with the French, in New Orleans. You know how the French would you know um procreate with
Mhm.
the white upper class, maybe men sometimes. And like you even heard them say some of the girls were like given at a young age at like 10. Isn't that what she said?
What?
Yeah,
Isn't that what they
12.
I
said?
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
12. Yeah, 12. That's real
Yeah,
young.
they're giving their daughters away.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's like, oh, that's so sad.
yeah.
They're just children. They don't get a chance.
I
And
know. That's
this and that. A lot of atrocities, but
Well, now it's not broken down by percentage. Like she was a quadroon. They also had octoroons for 1/8, mulatto for half white, half black. Now you're Creole if you are
yeah.
of
mhm.
French or Spanish, white, and Native American.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
everyone is Creole. They're not broken down by that percentage anymore.
Well, that's good to
Got
know.
you. I thought Creole was a voodoo priestess or voodoo priest.
No.
Yeah.
I have
I had no idea.
friends from high school that are Creole. It has to do with the ancestry.
Right. I didn't know that it was broken
Okay.
down that way because I have Native American, and I've got, but I've got Irish, and then I've got African, some small amount, and so that's interesting. Like, but then I have like European, so it's like a lot of mixture. But I have a lot of Native American because my great grandmother was full blooded 100%, and then on the other side, they were like a third each on the grandparents' side on the other side. And only my grandfather, that was the Freemason, the one I was telling you about,
Yeah.
like he is a descendant of George Mason, like from university up in Virginia. Like they're definitely from like European descendant and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just find that all so interesting. Like
Me too.
she definitely left a legend, that's for sure. Either way, however it was with her daughter,
Yeah.
or her, or she left an imprint on New Orleans, that's for sure. Because I
Oh
can't
yeah,
really one
definitely.
without the other. You know, like when I think of New Orleans, I automatically think of like Marie Laveau and Voodoo and stuff like that. I just do.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to take that man's tour. His
That would be
voodoo.
Yeah, me too.
He's funny too.
We'd have so much fun. Bring a
Yeah.
bottle of champagne with us or a bottle of wine.
And I do agree with him about the desecration of the graves. Like, I don't think that
Yeah.
anybody would go along with that. Like, no matter, you know, if you're a voodoo priestess or you're just a regular old grandma or whatever. I don't think anybody would want somebody to desecrate their loved one's graves like that. If
No.
that is indeed even where she's at. Like Karen said, I mean, she's probably not even there.
I'm not even sure how to pronounce that word, but y'all ever heard of
Melangian?
melangian? I don't even know what that is.
I never heard
African,
of
Native, and European.
No.
that. In the
What
South,
area of the country is that? I'm curious to know.
Oh, would that be in the Appalachian areas? Because that's kind of where my family's from, in that area up in there, up in like the Appalachian areas of like, you know, Virginia, Tennessee, up in through there, Virginia, Kentucky.
Oh yeah, Appalachia.
Yeah,
she said.
Appalachia. Yeah. See that my grandmother. See, she is Native American Cherokee, but now her daughters, like they used to read tea leaves and you know
Oh neat.
midwifery, and so back then healers like what y'all are talking about, like Marie Laveau.
Yeah.
That is kind of what they were into in the Appalachian hills, you know, and like the dowsing rods, you know, they would use that to find water.
I
But
have
people
them
use
and
it
I
for
use
other,
them too. They're neat.
and people use them now like to contact
Yeah, I use
spiritual
them.
things. But like there's actually a
Never
thing to it.
never steered me wrong, that's for sure. It's weird. It's neat how they work.
And they find water. Like they'll point you right to water. I mean, like
Yeah.
people that live there, you know, that's how they dig wells and they find the wells on the property and stuff like that. But there's a lot of that goes on in the Appalachian Mountains. You know, where there's medicine healers, medicine women. And a lot of people would call them like they would even call them witches just because they healed people. They had a healing way about them, even if they were Christian, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, because I know that I definitely have prayed for people and they become well and stuff. But like up in there, like if you have certain gifts and stuff, like they would like taint you as certain things.
That's what I was gonna say, SD, about Marie Laveau. I was gonna say, but I didn't want to insult her. I was gonna say, so she's like a Heinz 57.
Right. That's what I am. I'm a Heinz 57 too.
Yeah, that's apparently what I am, a
It's
Heinz 57. I don't even remember what I am. I don't know.
Well, you know, all the good pups and puppies, they're always mixed. You know, they're never
Yeah.
full-blooded ones. They're always crazy. Full-bloodeds are always crazy.
Yeah, they are. That and they always get sick, I find.
Yeah, they usually carry a lot of genetic, you know, like
Yeah, like I don't know, the Rottweilers, they always have bad hips
yeah,
or
and so
I
do
can't
Saint
remember.
Bernards because I've had like 3
Yeah,
Saint Bernards and they always got the hip dysplasias.
yeah,
And also like you know the bulldogs, like they carry a lot of eye problems and like mouth and ear, nose, and throat problems because of the way their noses
yeah.
are. So I think
Shih
it's
Tzus
always
is ear
better.
issues and
Yeah,
poodles
yeah.
are ear issues. Yeah.
Oh, and those Shih Tzus, they smell too. They are named correctly because if they get that disease on their skin, oh my
Trust
mama
me,
had
I know.
one.
I got Jack. I have to bathe him regularly because he's also allergic to
Yeah,
green, and
my
so I'm always
mama's dog,
bathing him.
he was allergic to everything, and his hair would
Yeah.
start falling off, and he
Oh my
stunk
God, same with
so
Jack. That's what he
bad.
looks like. His ear, he's got a bald patch, then he has one on his head. I'm like, what are you doing? So I have to keep bathing him to get him to stop scratching. He's finally okay right now. He hasn't been scratching in a few days because I bathed him.
They finally
Yeah, I'm
gave my
talking about
mom
you.
They gave my mama's dog like Xanax or something. It's like a benzodiazepine. That's what it was. They get or Valium maybe, but it was one of those
Yeah.
benzodiazepines, and they gave him that so he'd stop scratching, and then Benadryl. So he was like the most chilled out dog after that.
I know, and I don't want to drug my dog every day. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give him a bath and see because I've tried so many different shampoos. This one I got really works really well.
Well, that's good because I know it itches them and it
It's gotta
drives
be
me crazy.
annoying.
I know, and I felt so
Like
bad.
it would
And I
drive me
gave my
crazy.
mom
Can you imagine like 100 million freaking mosquito bites and you constantly scratch them and they just
scratch
never
them.
stop like being itchy every day, all night? No, I'd go crazy.
And I gave
Did
my
you make
mom that
toast?
dog, and I felt so bad because I was like,
You didn't make
she
toast?
loves it now so much she can't get rid of it. But I mean, it made
Yeah.
her house so stinky. You can smell it
I
as
love
soon as you walk
the
in.
smell now of him. He smells like coconuts and lime.
Oh, well, I bet that helps. It's that coconut in there probably helps a lot soothe.
Yeah, coconut, lime, and oatmeal.
I bet that does smell good. Is it like an oatmeal bath you give him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The camera's on. My kid. I should probably go. I gotta get off of here now. I gotta go have a snack thanks to you. That's all I smell is Pop-Tarts.
I think I want some kettle corn. I'm gonna make my husband go make some kettle corn.
S'mores Pop-Tarts are good.
He goes, oh, he heard me say that. I was gonna make him make kettle corn. He goes, oh.
Thank you, ladies, for coming up. This was awesome. I love learning all this stuff.
This is fun.
Thank you for letting me up. That was fun. And thank you for all the information, Karen, because you coming from there, I mean, dang, that's like hometown girl. You know all the stuff.
It's my pleasure. And being from there, it helps because I know the things that the tourists don't hear.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. This is fun. Well, I'm glad I caught this. That was neat. Right. Just
yeah, it was fun. I'm glad we did it.
All right. Well, love you guys.
And see
all right,
you guys
I will.
Soon.
Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. More Black Dahlia.
Oh, you're talking about her? I didn't see that. For some reason, I'm not.
Yeah, well, I think I've read the whole damn book now. I've only got a tiny bit left. I found some stuff at the back I was gonna read.
I need to go back and look then because I'm not getting.
It was interesting.
Notifications. I don't think.
Yeah,
I need to go and do the bell, and I'm gonna go subscribe and not subscribe and unsubscribe, but hit the bell and like hit it again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I have it pushed for all, and it's happening with more than just your channel. It's not just your channel.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people are telling me that. I don't know what it is. I talked to somebody at YouTube and they said that don't unsubscribe because then it tricks YouTube. So like it will say you're unsubbed when you really are subbed, and then when you unsub, you know what I mean? It confuses YouTube, I guess. And I was like, okay, so what do I tell them then? Because this is, they're just like, it'll fix in the algorithm. Yeah, okay. No, it's not.
I'm just gonna do the bell. I think hit the bell.
Yeah.
Not the unsubscribe, but the bell button and hit it.
Yeah, that's what he told me.
Are you on iPhone or Android?
I'm on a computer.
Oh, okay. Because I've discovered in another chat, people were talking, and I finally asked them, "Are you on iPhone or Android?" Because I get all of my I have all of my notifications come to me. I get one 30 minutes before each live stream, and then when it starts.
And what do you have?
I have an Android phone. I have a Galaxy.
Me too. I've got I find those phones are a lot better, and I've been hearing that actually. Somebody said that too. They have an iPhone. They never get.
Right. And I was the one that pieced it together in that live stream. I said, wait a minute, it sounds like everyone that's using an Apple product is not getting their notifications.
Well, I've got Windows though, so that's and I'm Android phone. So I should be getting them because I have a Moto, like the Moto stylus thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Like last year or whatever. I got that. So I should be getting them. I don't know what it is. Maybe they had a glitch or something and it's just not fixed. And so
something. I don't know what the hell they did. They tried to fix something or put something new in YouTube, and it just screwed up everybody. Subs and views have been taken, and
because I'm not even getting what I'm subscribed to. I get a lot of other stuff.
Right,
that I'm
me
not
too.
even subscribed to, like stuff I don't care about. Most random things. I mean, some of it's good.
I know.
But
I
anyway,
wonder if they're
well,
dropping subs if you don't regularly go to the channel. Because I've seen a number of creators have been saying their numbers have dropped, and I wonder if
Yeah.
YouTube is just automatically dropping you as a sub to a channel if you're not going there
Yeah.
regularly. Since don't they pay you on
Which
the
isn't
number of
fair
subs?
because it's none of their damn business. Like you
yeah,
can
why do
sub
they
to,
care
just because you don't
anyway?
watch them all the time. Like really?
Yeah.
I guess they don't want to pay people if they're not being watched.
And I've got like a very small, I mean, I don't have a huge subscriber base at all. And I lost like 7 in one day. And I don't think 7 people unsubscribed in just one day.
No,
I
they're
didn't even
not.
have anything out the day before, anything that would make anybody mad or tick them off. You
Well,
know what I'm saying?
YouTube, the guy from YouTube explained to me, he said, well, yeah, every day within 48 hours, we go through everybody's subs, and the ones that are bots, we take off your subscription. They're not your sub. But why is there bots on my subscription? Nobody's buying them.
That's
You know what I
weird.
mean? Like, I don't understand. I
Yeah,
don't
there's something
understand that at
going
all.
on. I don't know what they're doing.
But
They're
that's
trying,
what he was
they're
telling me. I'm
pushing.
like, what? Okay, so you're telling me that these, well, like the PORN
Yeah.
bots and all that, like how
Yep.
they come in. He
Hmm.
was saying that, yeah, it's like that. And then they'll be subbed up to your channel, but they're not real. So we take them out within 48 hours. I'm like,
That's crazy.
well, I
That's,
lost a lot. Like I'm talking like 100 plus subs
well, you have a lot
and
more. So,
views.
yeah.
What was it? Uh, 30,000 views I lost.
What?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
And
a lot.
this is twice now I've contacted them and I said, there's something wrong here. You don't understand. How are all these subs gone and all these views gone since you fixed the algorithm? Like, come on.
And also, you're not the only person that's saying it. You're not the only
Yeah, I
one that
know.
it's happening
Everybody's,
to.
all of them saying it.
Hmm. So it's something.
The
It's not
YouTube box, yeah, if they collect information and leave, that's fine. But why is it being why are they being subbed to our channel? I don't know.
taking people away or
It's just confusing. It's that because this wasn't like this before. Whatever they've done to fix this algorithm has frigged up
screwed it
everything.
up. They messed it up
Oh
once.
yeah, big time. Like I
Well,
don't get near as many people in my lives as I used to, and like at all. I used to get over 100, close to
yeah.
200. I have 5 right now.
What? That is crazy.
12 at the
I know.
highest tonight. That was the
And
most
I
I
Yeah,
mean,
noticed.
I've been on
12.
here in the past, and you've had like a lot of people going
Oh
through
yeah,
there.
I've always had at least between 80 and almost 200 all the time, and
Yeah.
now I'm down to
Yeah.
4.
It's almost like they're trying to push away the smaller channels, or maybe, or they're like at first, when
Yeah.
you're trying to make it, they won't let you make it even to a certain level, and then
Oh,
you
I
get past
can't. I'm
that level
stuck. My
because you get like in
my
a hole,
channel,
like
no.
a honey pot or a honey hole, whatever you call it. It's like you get stuck in a place, like on the credit card.
Yeah.
How you'll get to a certain point, the credit card's like, I'm not giving you anymore, and they'll just keep you
Yeah, like
trapped in that like credit limit, no matter how good you pay.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's
Oh yeah.
almost something like that, like some kind of a weird thing the computer's doing, like on its
Yeah,
own.
definitely.
Yeah. Well, thanks, y'all, and I hope y'all have a good night because I know you're trying to get off with your son,
Yeah.
have some snacks.
Go eat some Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, you can throw me off because I always forget how to sign myself
Oh,
off.
okay. Well, you girls have a great night and thank you so much.
Thank
Love
you.
you.
You do the same.
Great show. Thanks.
Great, sir. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, there's really, yeah, weird day. Only 2. It is what it is. All right, I'm gonna go. I need something to eat. Apparently, Dilly wants a treat. All right, you guys have a good night. I'll be back tomorrow. Bye.